Okay, so we're asking dumb SEO questions. Each week we meet to answer the questions asked on the Dumb SEO Questions community on Google+. With us tonight we have Alistair Lattimore. Alistair is head of search for the What If group of companies based here in Australia on the Gold Coast in Queensland. A little bit further down our coastline is Andre Weyer from Sydney, I think it's Sydney, and Andre is Director of Marketing for legalvision.com.au. He's also an ex-Googler. What do they call ex-Googlers, Andre?
Googlers with an X.
Okay. Girish is an SEO from Chandigarh in India. Masataki Wasa is webmaster of wasaweb.net. He's also a translator of 3 different languages, I think, and also a Google top contributor in the AdSense and the Google Plus Help community. Micah Fisher-Kirshner is Senior SEO Manager for Zazzle.com. Zazzle.com have now ticked over 32 million products sold on the internet, and Tim Capper's trying to catch him. Rob Mars is an aficionado of AdWords. He speaks in the Dutch language on the Google Help forums for AdWords and web search. He has a website in the Netherlands, marketbiz with 2 Zs.nl. Tim Capper is the CEO of Online Ownership, a man that's proud to call himself an SEO. He lives about 100 k's from London in the Midlands. Okay, all right. Look, our first question tonight is from Kim Ramirez, and his client cannot see a site that he's been optimizing in a Google search. His client is based in Perth, Australia. Kim goes on to say, okay, here's a weird thing. When I check my client's website in google.com.au, his website is in page 1. But when I use an Australian IP, it does not appear. And my client also checks the listing. He says that the site does not appear in the local listing. Kim asks, my question is it a Google glitch or is it a sandbox? Just to add to that, I was checking that out. The search term he's trying to search for is granny flat Perth, I think, or granny flat builder Perth, I think. And when I use the search tools to set the search location as Perth, Western Australia, I saw the Google Maps listing that at position 4, and I was just wondering if that was why the organic result is not showing, or maybe not. Anyway, over to you guys.
I'll start with a question. Do we know where the site is hosted?
No, but that's a good question, isn't it? Let me look for you.
It shouldn't really matter. It's using a .com.au domain, right? So the content should be geo-targeted automatically to Australia, even if it was hosted in the US.
It should, but hosting it in the right place wouldn't hurt.
Could also be that his client is having a lend of him. It might be account paying time.
So
Okay,
I
mean,
see his local result.
yeah, I see a local result plus a. I see it position 4 for me, the actual URL. Underneath the URL, it says it gives the Google Plus snippet page, and it gives the marker listing with the address at position 4. So. Interestingly, how come Gumtree is selling a granny flat?
That's not interesting. That's expected.
Do we also know whether he checked his positions in Webmaster Tools when localized at Australia?
No, we don't know that, Rob.
Then he should do that.
Well, Kim, I think that's as far as we can go. If we haven't gone far enough, please ask this question again, and we will tackle it again next week. David Jones has a question. Can Googlebot crawl this link, and does it pass PageRank? David, can someone tell me what this bit of JavaScript is doing here in this link? At home, you can see this link on the Dumb SEO Questions community on Google+. David wants to know, can Googlebot crawl it, and does the link pass PageRank? And then he gives a long line of link, which I'm not going to attempt to read out, but again, you can see it on the SEO Questions community on Google+.
So, yeah, this thing is essentially a Google Analytics script. It's tracking, the person who put this together is essentially tracking an outbound article, hence the name in the script, in order to know when somebody actually clicks on that my website here to go to whatever that website is. It's just to know like if people are clicking out. And yeah, it's kind of a script. It's just it's a simple script that Google can easily see, will crawl, and will pass PageRank. So something like that is a fairly simple one that Google can easily tell what's going on, particularly since it's its own analytics scripting.
Okay. Alistair, I thought you'd be a Monty to ask this one, because I even put the keyword in analytics event. By the way, if you could communicate with me through the week, currently we're offering for download the clips each week, and an audio-only clip as well as the full video clip. But what I'd like to do is put an event on the download click, so we can keep an eye on how many people are downloading them, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, that's all good.
Cool, mate. David, I hope that's answered your question. Vangelis Koveus asks the difference between consumer intent modeling and keyword research. I hope one of you guys knows the answer, because I have no clue.
I can take a stab. I'm not familiar with this capitalized version of consumer intent modeling, but in a sense that keyword research often, in a very basic sense, is just what are the search queries that people are using when they're searching on Google or Bing or other search engine. A consumer intent modeling is trying to understand what their actual purpose was when they were doing that type of research. You could kind of say that if you're doing a really good kind of keyword research modeling, that the intent for that consumer would be in your keyword research. But of course, consumer intent modeling doesn't have to necessarily be only a part of keyword research. It can also be what was the intent of the consumer when they're coming into the page or doing your internal searching. So it can go in kind of an area. But it's part. You could say it's a part of doing keyword research if you're doing it fairly well. But that's kind of my view without kind of knowing when I see something like that capitalized, I don't know the actual background for the full area of what's defined here, consumer intent modeling.
I can just maybe add a little 2 cents into this. It's also for me the first time that I've come across that term, but there seems to be, in many cases, a pretty big discrepancy between what a user is searching for and what they actually need. So maybe it has something to do with finding out the difference, or like the discrepancy between the actual search term and what it turns out that the customer purchased or looked for. So yeah, could be something to do with that as well.
Cool. Okay, Vangelis, I think that covers it, but if it doesn't, you can please ask it again on the SEO Questions community on Google+. Hardiel Singh asks, what are the best tools apart from Google Analytics and Google Webmaster Tools for SEO? I have used a couple of tools for keyword ranking, monitoring, and backlink analysis, but not sure of the quality of these tools.
If I can just maybe start off with maybe an answer that might lead to other people giving their opinion about this. Coming obviously from a different place, I found working with external tools to be very difficult and frustrating. The biggest issue that I've always come across is the IP issue. You know, I've been using actually, I haven't been using that many external tools because they all seem to have wrong data. It's always an IP issue. Once you perform the same search query an X amount of time from the same IP, after a certain stage, the data just becomes unreliable as Google will start blocking you. There are a couple of tools out there that seem to be able to override this, but I haven't seen one as of yet that is really good in its analysis. Does anybody have any experience with tools that override the IP issue?
Well, let's see. Yeah, generally, you know, if you're doing it enough times and consistently over time, I've seen a couple of let's see, we'll go with outside of Webmaster Tools. So the big one that, ironically enough, was at the SMX conference that people were pushing for was GetStat. Advanced Web Rankings, which generally are kind of the ones that people are known for, are usually the kind of the go-tos from what I've heard with a lot of SEOs. Backlink analysis, I think in the chat there's decent ones that have been mentioned. So that's Open Site Explorer, Majestic, Ahrefs, Monitor Backlinks. I'm usually a fan of Majestic. Then on my end, then on top of that, then if we're looking at kind of competitor analyses, search metrics, SEMrush, which we use as kind of a disclosure here, those can be some decent competitive analyses as well. Those are kind of some quick ones, at least in my mind.
I think some simple tools that are pretty straightforward as well. You know, if you've got a smaller site, you can crawl it with something like Xenu Link Sleuth, for instance, just to find out if you've got broken links within your site. Simple. If you've got a bigger site, you can use something like Screaming Frog, or the IIS SEO toolkit from Microsoft is also good for a pretty hefty crawl if you need to go reasonably deep into a site. Both of those last two also provide a whole raft of detail about, information about each of the URLs that you crawl, status codes, and titles, and meta descriptions, and all sorts of things like that as well. It's worthwhile probably mentioning some keyword research type related stuff as well. What's SEO without good content? So, you can use all the obvious tools like, the AdWords Keyword Planner, Microsoft's Ad Center's Keyword Planner. You can use tools like WordStream or SEMrush or Word Tracker, or you can use the auto suggest features from Google when you go into the search results. Uber Suggest to scrape all of the suggestions from Google search results. Something like Suval, which goes and collects the keyword suggestions from Google search keyword suggestions along with a raft of other ones like Amazon and other search engines as well that do auto suggest. So there's some other ones that you can look at.
Great. Yep, fantastic. Did anybody want to add to that? Fantastic. Okay. I have a question now from Powan Powa. Do social signals help in SEO? What social sites are important as signals?
Can I take a shot at this one?
Of course.
Yes, but not in the way most people think, probably. As an example, I will just use the amount of likes that you get on your Facebook page. A single like will not help you in any way, but a larger amount of them as a general trend on your Facebook page will be seen as one positive signal. So in a way that each and every single link can be seen as a individual vote of confidence, one single like on Facebook will not be seen as a positive influence on your rankings, but having a page with posts that are constantly being liked in a certain amount, that will be seen as one positive signal.
Cool. Anybody else?
So, I mean, you can go into kind of the concepts of a lot of where social is providing a lot of traffic into the site. Things that provide essentially those positive signals or hint to Google. It may not be direct. You may get kind of a recency bump because Google's like, okay, a lot of people are showing this, let's show it for a bit, and then when things die down, it disappears. There's that side of it. So there could be lots of indirect signals. So the amount of social traffic might lead to a lot of shares and a lot of links in the end. That's going to help. And then, there's of course the side of personalized search, and if you're connected to people on Google+, that's going to provide a bit of a lift potentially just through a personalized network. But those are kind of you could say some of the big things there. And then if you're looking at surfacing a lot of pages and you're doing that a lot and a lot of people are tweeting it, that's going to help Google to find those pages pretty fast. And not that will have a direct impact, it's just ways to help provide that and kind of signal that over.
Very good. Excellent. All right, Powan, I think that covers it for you. Now, just going to digress. Each week we answer the items placed on the SEO news community on Google Plus as part of our weekly news roundup. We add items of interest that crop up through the week. Normally we answer all of these at the end, but Andre Weyer has joined us tonight because he wants to speak on this one, and he only has a short amount of time. So we'll cover that one now. It's titled Maligning the SEO Industry. It was posted by me, and what I said was that I'm disappointed in this article because I don't think all of it is good advice, and I'd like to discuss it during our weekly news roundup. I'm admitting a bias in that I hate to see people maligning the SEO industry, particularly when the criticism is not well founded. And what followed was a lengthy discourse, a lengthy comment thread. But the thing I'd like to point out is that when I posted this article, the article that many people would have been reading wasn't the same one. It was edited, and that the emphasis of the first paragraph was changed. And you can see my explanation at the bottom of that thread. But I'm not, if I'm to be castigated, I'm willing to accept my fate. So I'll let you go ahead, Andre.
Well, I wasn't planning on going on a rant or anything. I just thought that the topic was very interesting, and a little bit first about my background. Obviously, I look at it. I've always looked at it from a little bit of a different angle. I don't consider myself to be an SEO as such. I started out in online marketing in Google, and I've always looked at it from a point of view strictly from quality. Having said that, I've been out of Google for 2 years now, and I've done quite a lot of audits within various agencies on their request to see what they're doing is compliant with Google guidelines and what my opinion of it is. And so far, out of 10 agencies, I would say that 7 of them, 70% of agencies, are basing their work on things that are not compliant with Google. And in some cases, it would just be a lack of knowledge from the side of the agency, but in other situations, it might be a little bit more a lack of respect towards their clients, as in, they don't know what we're doing, so we can just get away with anything. We can show them quick results in the beginning, and we don't really care about getting them penalized on the long run. So I think the SEO industry is in need of a bit of a scrub, if that's a good way of putting it. I think there's a lot of people who are misusing their knowledge of the topic to mislead unknowing clients, and I think it would be a very good situation to filter those rotten apples out of it. And that's why I think informing clients is the first step to do this.
Fair enough. Yep. Anybody else?
Well, I only read the edited version, so when the comments on this discussion were going back and forth, I didn't really understand what the issue was so much. I think that the opening section of it probably could have, even after the edit that Kate made, probably could have been worded a little differently. But was it, after the edit, was it misleading? No, I don't think it was misleading. Was any of the information she put forward in the article, wrong? No, I don't really think it was wrong. It was just a particular piece that she had written, because that's what she does. I didn't really see anything too problematic with it, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Like in my defence, and I'll just try and find that article. Just bear with me for a second. Just bear with me. Just got to find it. Things. Here we are.
So just another, I'm on I'm with Alistair on this, at least from I as well had read the edited version, and I agree with kind of at least where Alistair's his view there. Just to give you a little more time there, Jim.
Thanks, mate. I just had to find a link because I wasn't actually going to speak on it, but I just think I should explain that when I read this article, it didn't finish with sort of, and it didn't have, well, in my opinion, it didn't have. Kate said that the words that are there now were just worded a little differently, but look, I'm happy to give her the benefit of the doubt on that. I really don't care that much, but what I took from it, in a way that it was first written, was that her, I mean, and the whole thing was of the article is, are you killing your business with this huge SEO mistake? And she goes on to say, SEO experts telling unsuspecting business owners that to succeed with SEO, you just need to install a plugin, fix your bugs, write some blogs, and send a few tweets. And she said, you know, why this really gets my goat? Because it's bullshit, she said. But see, the thing is that for 95% of clients, in my opinion, that is all they need for SEO. If they're in a non-competitive industry and they fix the technical issues, they write about their business, they blog about it, they become a little bit socially active with some Google Plus posts and SEO tweets to talk about their business and arouse interest. Put in the Yoast plugin into their WordPress site, and Bob's your uncle. I mean, most people will get by with that. And my concern was that, I mean, Kate was just link baiting, of course. I mean, I knew that. But my concern was that it's misleading if it had been that way. Now, looking at the article with it all rewritten after I'd complained about that, obviously, you know, it's a different kettle of fish. Now she's saying it's sort of bullshit and saying, you know, it's a lot softer, and she's not saying that it's absolutely completely wrong just to install a plugin, fix your bugs, write some blogs, and send a few tweets. So, yeah, look, this is really, it's a bit of a storm in a teacup. I mean, if she'd written it properly in the first place, I just would have ignored it, and it wouldn't have worried me. But I'm not in complete agreement with Andre in that I don't think it's good to run down your industry. And I see it so often. It's like there's a genre of these posts, and sure, it's good to expose shysters, but I mean they should be nailed outright, not just talked about. Yeah, but in the meantime, this constant undercurrent of people running down their own industry just to get a little bit of attention, I think it's wrong.
Yeah, I think indeed if it's just to cause, you know, a stir and get attention, obviously that's not the right motivation to do something like that. But the reason why I initially agreed with the article is because I've seen so many of these people, and for me, coming out from my previous employer, it was shocking to see how much of it is out there. Obviously, I've seen a lot of good ones as well, but the amount of crap quality that is being done by agencies that consider themselves professional and ethical SEO companies was astounding for me, and that's why I think there should be more emphasis and more attention to this issue, because I think it's causing a lot of grief for a lot of people at the end of the day.
Fair enough.
Right, that within Google there's not much more knowledge about snake oil sellers then. Because it's a pest to the industry for 10 years already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the industry has been around for 10 years, but I think the nature of it obviously, you know, changes at this stage almost every month. You know, at this stage, doing something against Google guidelines is becoming so difficult, and you're going to get caught so easily, that at this stage, when you're still doing it, it's basically playing with fire, and it's only a matter of time before you actually get caught and your client gets punished for it. As a simple example, I reviewed a site a couple of weeks ago that that was under the control of an SEO agency for over a year, and the client himself has very little idea of what is allowed and what isn't allowed, and 95% of the backlink profile was basically coming from automated blogs with with 10 commercial anchors in a text of 10 sentences, and all of these links had anchors like Sydney Hotel or trips to Sydney or something like that, and as long as something like that can go unpunished or unnoticed for over a year, then it just makes me think, okay, what else has this person done? And people like that should be made aware that what they're doing is unethical.
Yeah, but one of the problems there is that Google firstly punishes the site owner and not the SEO company.
Yeah, because obviously the SEO company is working in the name of the site owner, and Google wouldn't be able to it would have to investigate very deeply to find out, okay, it was actually this SEO. I agree in principle. I agree with you in principle that it should be the SEO who is punished for it, but it would require much more time in the hands of a reviewer to actually find out who the SEO company was.
Yeah, so isn't that then in itself unethical?
The thing is, on the flip side here, most of the people that come to me haven't been to an SEO company beforehand, but they've done their own form of research. Okay. When you look at their profile, it is over-optimized text. It's mass directories. It's articles. It's everything a crap SEO agency would do. Now, this is my bone of contention, and I have had it for quite some time. If you read all the stuff out there, 90% of them will all say build links. Okay. So then the person or the business or the company then types in build links, link building. Now there are, Jesus, God knows how many hundreds of millions of sites out there, talking about building links, showing AdSense where you've got all these dodgy little, packages all being shown. You type in link building now, and Google's taking money for all these shitty little ads being all over the place about buy 50 links for all of this. Okay. Nowhere on that page is a little thing from Google saying, whoa, check out our guidelines. Because again, every single one that I've spoken to, I said, are you aware of Google guidelines? What? Google has guidelines? Huh? What are you talking about? Okay, so there is responsibility on two parts here. Google takes the money to flog shitty sites selling shitty links. Okay, so there's got to be responsibility there, and there's also got to be moral responsibility to say, hey guys, fine, fair enough, we'll take the money for this, but I just want a little snippet somewhere on that page saying, please check Google's guidelines, or we do have guidelines. So there is a moral responsibility, and it's not always, on the flip side, crappy SEO agencies. Because half the time it's people doing their own research, coming up with their own ideas of stuff that is all over the net, and Google takes money for also.
Can we actually have that quote, though, by the way, Tim? I would love Google to say, hey, by the way, we do have guidelines. Like, I would just love seeing that.
Yeah, Tim, I have to say that personally, I fully agree. There's definitely a responsibility on Google sites to inform users on what they're looking for. I couldn't agree more. If I would still in Google, I would say I'll pass your feedback on, but now I can't do it anymore. But I fully agree. I can only agree. Yeah.
Just to clarify, Andre, we're understanding that it's not against the Google guidelines for somebody to advise somebody to install the Yoast plugin, fix coding errors on their site, write articles about their business, and send tweets talking about their business and say.
I can fully imagine that element of the post may have caused a confusion because people who are not well informed might think that that's something that is against the guidelines. But it's only about the low quality link building that we're referring to here now.
Yeah. But I mean, that was my point. It's certainly not bullshit, and for most people, it's perfectly good advice for an SEO to give somebody. You would agree with that?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that, and I think, to be honest, when I'm listening to it now, it's probably more a little bit of a misunderstanding about the article. I think the way it was written, I can imagine that some people might have read it and say, okay, all of these points are bad advice, which is obviously, I don't even think that was Kate's intent. Maybe it was just that she had written it in a way that made it sound a little bit more clumsy than it should have. But I really think if you look at the rest of the article, it is clearly only about the link building, but maybe you're right that the first paragraph would have been better if she'd explained that straight away.
Yeah, cool.
That's
excellent.
The first paragraph, as was loose and confusing, or could be led to be construed the wrong way. I read it the right way because I knew Kate's intention wasn't to do that, but I could easily see how it could have been interpreted the other way around, and people could have been confused by it.
Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing about the topic, which I think is interesting and maybe not everybody is aware of, especially people who are less savvy than Alistair. One of the main signals for Google to even consider your site for manual review is the anchor text ratio that your backlink profile has. So if there's any one single point that I can give as a point of advice to someone who wants to see if their SEO agency is doing a good job, is to have a look at the anchor texts that are coming in. The thing you want to avoid is having the top 3 anchors being made out of commercial anchor text. If your top 1, 2, and 3 anchor texts are phrases like Hotel Sydney or Trip to Sydney or Flight to New York, that's an instant red flag for Google. If you have your top 3 anchor texts linking in with your URL or your domain name, that's a much healthier looking backlink profile. And I think if there's any one single point of advice I can give, it would be this: check the anchor text ratio, and people just don't do that enough.
But the anchor text is one of the things you don't have under control for a natural link.
Absolutely, but if you were to look at a backlink profile of a site with a natural profile, you would never have a situation in which the top 3 most used anchor texts are commercial anchor text. It would always be click here or contact us or the URL of the page. Having commercial anchors used so often is a very clear giveaway of bad SEO. And of course, you don't have influence on it, but naturally, it would never look like that.
So yeah, I think, Rob, the thing is it's a red flag as to check, not as to punish in the case of what he's talking about.
It doesn't automatically mean a punishment. It would be a red flag to get it into the queue of manual review. And then obviously, all those links would have been investigated individually and to see what the quality of the links that are, the quality of links linking in.
So it's a slightly less way of doing negative SEO. Get them in front of the Google reviewer.
Yeah, if you want to be very obvious, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, as a negative, as like if you want to just push them in front of a Google manual spam reviewer, then you hike up their anchor text ratio.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I don't even think this is a secret or a mystery anymore. I mean, it's been around for years and years now, and I think people who've been monitoring who gets penalized and who doesn't get penalized. I think this is the main the main element of the sites who would get penalized. And obviously, it's not enough to have a commercial anchor, but it's a dead giveaway in 9 out of 10 cases.
Okay. How are we going? Have we really covered this article?
I reckon we've given it a good nudge.
I think so. I'm going to take that as a vote of yes. Now, Andre, I think you'd make a great panelist. We meet here every Thursday, and I'm sure you've got a lot to contribute. We help a lot of people. We probably handle 30 or 40 questions a week. We don't charge for it, but we don't pay you either. But if you could see your way clear to making some time available, I'd love to have you join us.
I'd be happy to join you once in a while. I guess the one thing that I can say about it, being an ex-Googler, it's an important thing to note that it's notorious within Google that everybody gets their little speciality, and there's hardly anybody within Google who knows everything. And I know surprisingly little about SEO. What I do know a lot about is content quality and backlink profile. So that was more or less my speciality within Google. So I'd be very happy to join in and answer any questions about any of those two topics.
Yeah, look, that's fantastic. We all have our own skill sets here. I'm the only one that knows everything.
Zo leuk om je weer vaker te zien, André.
Graag. Ja, ik kom er graag tussen, zo af en toe.
Zou leuk zijn.
The old Dutch.
Is he trying to recruit you to start a Dutch version of Dumb SEO Questions, Andre?
No. No, my Dutch is surprisingly weak. I've been gone from the Netherlands for 10 years already, so it's slipping.
No, Tim, no, I don't just bring you in to make you feel better. And I was only it was just my failed attempt at humour when I said I know everything. As you know, I'm always saying I know nothing. Excellent. So, Andre, feel free to stay as long as you want, but I'm conscious of the fact that you have to leave. But we'll send you an invitation every week and just ignore them until it suits you to join us. But look, nobody's asking you to give away any secret sauce. All we want is input, and the last thing, I think Alistair knows more than most Googlers anyway, so we're not worried.
Yeah. I've heard so far. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm notoriously nervous before sessions like this because I have a tendency to talk more than I should. So I'm going to try and keep my mouth shut for as much as I can and only talk when I know I can say something and I know that I'm right about something. So I'll be mostly listening in.
Yeah, no, look, that's fine. We're all friends here, and yeah, I'd love to have you join us.
Be my pleasure. Right. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thanks, mate. Nice to meet you.
Okay, yeah. Moving on to Chris M. Cloutier's question. It's on repurposing content from an old site. Chris goes on to say, one of my clients wants to keep content from an old site. I have to admit, the content is good, and I can see why she wants to keep it. It's long-form, quality stuff. The problem is that the domain is going away, so I can't 301 everything. And I'm not sure if that's what I'm supposed to do or not. But I'd like to know from you guys, what can I do here? Can I wait until it's no longer indexed and then copy it to the new site?
So the first thing I would do here, I think, is Chris should, well, assuming he's going to have access to the existing domain for some period of time, he should move domains as quickly as he can over to the new domain, whatever it is he's going to use. Implement all of the 301 redirects site-wide, so page A on the old domain goes to page A on the new domain. And get that process going. Make sure he follows the moving website guidelines from Google. You can notify Google of a change of address through Webmaster Tools, 301 redirects. There's a bunch of things to do. Don't block stuff with robots. Then purely on the content piece, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to repurpose the content from the old site. You own the site, so to speak, in the content. If it's good quality, and it resonates with your audience, then reuse it on the new domain. And this is exactly why 301 redirects exist. You should be allowed to move or restructure your site, whether it's across a domain or restructure the content internally within your own domain. And this is why permanent redirects exist, so that you can tell Google this piece of long-form content that existed on domain A, I'm permanently moving it to some URL on domain B, and that's okay. So that's how I would probably approach this.
It's good, Alistair. Does anybody have an enhancement to that plan? No, I'll take that as a no. Chris, I have that's the answer you were looking for. Hardiel Singh asks us a question about authorship image, but I think it's been solved for him with the announcement by John Mueller about 12 hours ago. I'll quickly read it. He said, for one of my websites, the authorship image is not coming up in search results, but there is the link of the Google Plus profile along with the number of circles coming in beneath the website listing in the Google search results. However, in the rich snippets tool, it's showing up fine. What can be done to show the image along the website? Who wants to give Mr. Singh the bad news?
I'm still here, and I can actually say two things about this, if I still may.
Sure.
So obviously, the first thing that we need to say about this, that it's going to be over very soon anyway, because it's being discontinued. So it's not a real issue anymore for anybody. But the second thing that I can mention about this that is still interesting for the period that it was in existence is that setting it up by no means guarantees that it will show up. Google has always reserved the right to decide on each and every single occasion to either show it or not. And there might have been situations where somebody didn't like the picture and said, okay, we're not going to show this. So there's absolutely no way of guaranteeing a picture being shown. It has always been Google's prerogative to either show it or not, and there was no real strict guideline on it.
Okay, Hardiel Singh, I'm sure you've seen the news too today. No need to worry about getting your image to work because they're all going away very shortly. Here's another question from Hardiel about preventing copying of content. He asks, how can we prevent content of the website from being copied? And what can we take in case someone does copy content from our website?
Sorry, Jim, just to interrupt, there is one exception. They'll still be appearing in the in-depth article section.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Just
very tiny.
Yeah.
Very tiny and not actually, sort of where they originally sat. They very tiny little thumbnail into the article. That's the one exception.
And yours would probably appear as a black dot. It's way too tiny to make a difference.
Yeah, they are tiny.
Okay. All right. So I found a new way to be wrong. Here, what about Hardiel's question about copying of content?
No. You can't stop it. You know, if people are able to view your website, they can copy your content. You can install those annoying scripts that stop you being able to right-click. But it's pointless because you can just go and view source, or you can take a screenshot and retype it, or, yeah, it's futile. Don't even bother. There's bigger things to worry about than worrying about silly stuff like that.
Yeah. Of course, there's also there's always the DMCA process. If it's serious enough, if the content is valuable enough, there's always the risk that you might find yourself in a lawsuit, a very expensive lawsuit, if you do use the DMCA process without having justification for it. Okay. Moving on, our next is from Rita Ahuja, and Ritu, I should say, asks how to generate and implement an image and mobile sitemap for my blog. I want to submit sitemaps. Do you have any ideas on how to generate and implement them?
What question are we on? What number?
Number 10.
Oh, already 10. I wonder. That's right after 9, right?
Usually.
Okay, here we are.
So she mentioned in the comments on the community that this is actually her Blogger blog. So Blogger automatically implements an XML sitemap for you. It's referenced out of the robots.txt file. So her web content is automatically handled on that front. It'll also mean that if she verifies her website within Google Webmaster Tools, the XML sitemap that Google automatically produces, or Blogger produces, will automatically show up in Google Webmaster Tools. So that's kind of helpful. In terms of the mobile sitemap, you don't need a mobile sitemap because Blogger only serves content for smartphones, tablets, and desktops. The mobile XML sitemaps are actually for feature phones, not for standard web-based content, I think. So you don't have to worry about that. And then the image sitemap, I don't know how you would submit that. You could generate it with a crawler, but I'm not sure if and you could submit it through Google Webmaster Tools. The thing I'm not 100% sure about is if you were to submit an XML sitemap hosted on a different domain, so not on your domain.blogspot.com, whether or not Webmaster Tools will accept that. You can obviously do cross-domain XML sitemap submissions, but they're usually done out of the robots.txt file, and you don't have access to edit that through Blogger, so I'm not sure how that would work. In general, I would be not so worried about that. I'd probably focus on making sure that when you input the images into your blog content, that it's using a plain image tag, and that you're including alt text, for instance, on the images, or title attributes, or descriptions and such things associated to the image, so Google can better understand what the image is, as opposed to worrying about getting it indexed via an image XML sitemap. Google is pretty good with handling that in general.
Excellent. Thank you, Alistair. All right, we have a lot of questions tonight, so we'll move on quickly to Girish Kapoor's question, and yeah, it's a very good question. He's with us on our panel tonight. Why doesn't Google punish paid links? Girish said, one of my competitors is running at first page on the Google search engine results page. He takes a lot of paid backlinks for his website, but Google does not punish him. Why?
What's the URL?
How does he know it's paid links? Yeah.
How does he know it's paid links? How does he know it's not being disavowed already by the competitor in their system? How do we know it's not actually helping? Or how do we usually know that it's helping? Those are kind of the three big questions.
And the other one is you just got to look at, payday loan term, crappy links work. They do eventually get found. So even though, let's assume these are paid links, they do get found eventually, no matter how clever you ultimately think you are.
Yep,
Yeah.
I can only second that what Tim said. I mean, you can get away with it for a certain amount of time. Just having bad links or paid links doesn't automatically mean you'll get penalized, but you will eventually. So they got away with it for a certain amount of time. You can submit a spam report, and if they're really paid, they'll get punished.
It's an assumption question.
So one thing I would say just quickly about the competitor for this is they've got a massive amount of links. And according to, say, Open Site Explorer, just as an example, they're currently grading their domain and page authority for their homepage very high, which tends, as a loose kind of a thing, tends to be that domains with lots and lots of links can tolerate, and that are high quality, can tolerate more garbage happening than smaller, less authoritative sites. To a point, of course. If you push it too hard, you're obviously going to get dinged, regardless of how big your site is. But if the paid links that Garesh is seeing is not prolific, for instance, for this domain, then the likelihood is that they'll continue to skirt on it until it reaches such a point that it's, just overwhelming. You could also submit a spam report, I suppose, to Google and say that, hey, this guy's buying lots of links. Could go nowhere, but can't hurt.
Yep. If I was getting beaten, I'd go to that page. It's still in Webmaster Tools, is it? Report spam. You have to be logged in. Yep. I hate getting beaten. All right, Girish.
Explains why you're grumpy all the time, Jim.
Well, that's right. Yes, it's true. Girish, are you happy with that response?
One beep, yes. Two beeps, no.
Only 50-50, guys. So what are we going to do now? What do you want to type into the chat, Girish, what we missed? I'm not sure which type of paid links does Google penalise. If paid links are relevant, then it's also penalised or not. I don't think that's well. I'll throw it open to the panel to answer that.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, he's asking if a link on the page is and paid and relevant, what happens then? Correct?
I think that's what he means.
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question. Usually if a page is of good quality, it wouldn't necessarily, or actually, well, in most cases, it wouldn't accept paid links. If it does, but the links also happen to be relevant, there's only one particular niche in which it can be relevant, right? So I can see, I can imagine a situation where somebody would get away with something like that, but there's not many situations in which that can happen because one page usually is about one topic, and they'll only be able to host one type of link. So there's not much room to earn any money here. So in principle, yeah, who knows? Maybe they could get away with it, but not as a wider phenomenon.
I can think of a cracking example, Andre, that's worth several $100 million.
Yes.
Have you looked at the link profile for TripAdvisor recently?
Well, you know what? I think this is a really large topic that we're now sailing in. I haven't looked at it recently, but I can tell you that even if they would go into it, there are now so many links of good quality flowing into TripAdvisor next to the ones that are of bad quality that it probably wouldn't make that much difference anymore.
Yep.
So yeah.
Some background on this. I talked to Brian White.
Yes.
At SMX last year.
Yes.
In Sydney. After his presentation, and specifically raised this because of the abusive nature of their link profile. Mm-hmm. And it's in clear violation of Google's guidelines since day zero, and yet mm-hmm. they're not getting penalized. Mm-hmm. And they should get a manual review against mm-hmm. them, and then penalized, yet it still doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. And then he wrote it down in his little Black Matt Cuts book. Yes. And then I subsequently talked to John Mueller about it mm-hmm. twice, and he comes up and says, they're not going to get penalized, basically. And here's why. They're relevant sites linking to a relevant site. It looks completely normal. It doesn't matter that they're effectively paid links. It's a hotel website, which is great quality, linking to a hotel industry website. Those links are constantly going to get through the algorithm. Which basically means TripAdvisor have managed to build $1 billion business off the back of 100% manipulation, and Google aren't willing to penalize them for it, despite the fact that it's a clear violation. You should, if you want to have some fun, go and have a look at the JavaScript that TripAdvisor emit as part of their widget. It comes up and has specific stuff in the widget that, if you follow the links, the widget breaks and says your widget code is broken. Please reinstall it.
Mm-hmm. I'm very happy I'm not at Google anymore with this question, to be honest. Could you maybe send me over a couple of examples of these links?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Obviously, I can go in myself and check. I mean, I haven't done so far, so I don't really know what the backlink profile looks at the moment. But if you could send me over a couple of examples, I'd love to see that. Yeah.
It's epic. That's what it is. How many hotel websites do you want to have linking to you? Like, everyone would love links from hotel websites because they generally have very good link profiles. Mm-hmm. And they've got hundreds of thousands of links from hotels off the back of their widget. It's hilarious and frustrating, but hilarious. And it's so fantastic that they just skirt on it. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are quite a lot of examples of very high-profile websites that were doing something dodgy in the beginning, and it helped them in the beginning, and it built their brand, and then the positive ones started coming in. And yeah, they should have been, I mean, by today's standards, they should have been penalized 10 years ago, but they might have made it through in the beginning because Google wasn't that harsh on them 10 years ago, So, yeah, I've seen a lot of those examples, yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought of a way that you could knock TripAdvisor off if you were devious enough. With this work, you figure out that Googlebot always crawls from the US. I was just looking to see where TripAdvisor is hosted. I was amazed to see that they're only hosted on one IP address, tripadvisor.com. Is that their main only website, or do they use sites all over the world?
If you want the CCTLDs.
But they do use TLDs, eh?
Just because they're hosted on one IP doesn't mean that they're not load balanced around the world, which they will be.
True.
Yeah, especially a website of that size, they're going to do some load balancing.
We'll just do a deal. We have to do a deal with the NSA then, if we wanted to be certain of getting between Googlebot and TripAdvisor. But like if you did a man-in-the-middle attack and I just fed Googlebot, you know, what would we do? Feed Googlebot porn maybe on TripAdvisor? That'd certainly upset the apple cart somewhere. Anyway, we're not going to do that. Bit of fun thinking about it. All right. Girish, I hope you're happy now. The next one we have is Ryan Kramer asking, what is a good closing percentage for websites? Does anybody know what a good closing percentage is for websites in different industries? Focusing more on productivity rather than placement. I've been trying to figure out what percentage of people I should expect to fill out a lead generation form.
Can I say one thing about this? It's very, very different per niche. There are certain verticals where having a 2% conversion rate on your site is very good. There are other niches where having a 9% conversion rate is considered very bad. So as an example, fast-moving consumer goods have typically a very low conversion rate. If you're selling creams online, having a conversion rate of 2% is probably very good. If you're selling electron microscopes online, having a 20% conversion rate is probably average. So it really very heavily depends on the vertical.
Yep. Anybody else? By the way, Andre, you don't need to stand on ceremony here. If you hear a vacant space, feel free to jump in. You don't have to ask.
Sure.
Anybody else with an answer for Ryan? Okay. Stefan Ivanov asks, or has noticed something strange in Google Webmaster Tools. He gives an image which can be seen on the SEO Questions community on Google+. He said, today I noticed something strange in content keywords that when I click on the specific keyword, the URL of my subdirectory is not I'm not sure what he means. He says, I think that the screenshot below will explain it better than me. I hope he does better than me. And the editor, he said, I have submitted the sitemap and also I use rel canonical for all pages. And when I hover over the link, it's fine. I hope somebody can make some sense of that because I don't know where I am.
I don't get it. I read it before.
Is the picture showing up on your panelist report, guys?
Nope.
Okay, that will be by next week.
Just let me see if I can find the image. Hang on. For the love of God. I just want the URL. There we go. Hmm. Okay, so he's gone into the content keywords report. He's clicked on a keyword, and then Google returns the top URLs that feature that particular keyword. And instead of him seeing the URLs of his actual website, he's getting, which is tired-of.com, he's getting a whole bunch of garbage URLs showing up, like IP address based stuff. So 0.0.7.222/ as an example is what's showing up in his list instead of the actual URL on his website. Seems like a bug to me.
It didn't. John Mueller in the comments actually noted it's weird, so I think they got it submitted over to their system to look into.
So Tony McCreath spotted something interesting. He said that the 0.0.7.222 is 7 by 256 plus 222, which is 2014. He said it's a case of the year being converted to an IP address. So something's gone wrong somewhere.
How does he even know that?
He likes to solve puzzles.
I can just think of the Homer Simpson quote, and I'm not using disparagingly, but it's just like Homer's like, nerd. That's all I can think of.
I'm thinking we need to get Tony a Sudoku book for Christmas.
Tony McCreath is chilling out in Adelaide right now with a bottle of wine, good South Australian red, if I know Tony. But I'm sure he'll be pleased to hear your comments. He's one of the viewers we have online right now. All right, well, look, we've got a lot of questions tonight. So, Stefan Ivanov, I hope that we've begun to address your question. If not enough, please ask it again on the SEO Questions community on Google+. Hadiel Singh asks another one, other sites mentioning my site rank instead of my site. He goes on to say, for the main keywords, instead of the website itself, the other links are ranking in Google search. Sites like social bookmarking or blog sites, WordPress Blogger, etc. But our actual website is ranking nowhere for these main keywords. What can be the reason for this? It's the case with a majority of our websites.
Are they not ranking for their own URL?
All I've got is what I read out, Andre.
Because I'm wondering if he's having issues with ranking for his money keywords or for his main URL. Because that would be, if I knew that, I would be able to answer it very easily.
I'm just looking through the comments he made on the community.
What question number is this? This is
number 14.
Number 14.
Would be nice if we had a URL.
Yeah.
It's always
Because
iffy.
yeah, because in principle, I'm not sure how well he's looking into his webmaster tools and stuff. Because if you don't rank for your own URL anymore, then it's a clear case of a penalty. But I'm not sure if he checked his webmaster tool.
Well, it doesn't have to be a penalty. It could also be that the site is lower authority than those other URLs. It goes back. It goes back to that old RSS scraper issue type thing. So if the other sites, let's use PageRank here as an example, have higher PageRank than theirs, then the old way, at least Google would look at it and be like, higher PageRank means, guess what? That site ranks above you. So it could just be something along those lines.
Anymore, to be honest, I think it's very hard to outrank somebody on their own URL. Or at least I haven't seen many examples of it.
Well, it depends on what he's. Well, is it not the URL, but on the actual content? I mean, if you've got a small website and suddenly the Huffington Post is essentially aggregating your content, the Huffington Post is going to be ranking.
Yeah, and hence my question. I'm just wondering what it is that he's asking. Is it his branded keywords, or are they just the keywords that he would like to rank for? I'm not really sure.
Right. Fair point.
This is all just speculation. You know, without having his URL, it's difficult.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the numbers mean, but I've just put the PA and domain authority in the chat for the site that he was talking about.
Yeah, no. We would need the URL in situation a little more explained for us to know for sure.
If you pose a big question, you get a big answer. This is usually how it goes. You know, if somebody wants to know a specific answer, they gotta give specific details. So.
And even then, we'll give you with "it depends."
All right, Hardil Singh, if you could ask this question again for next week with some URLs for us to test and comment on, we will be more than happy to do this all over again. TechBlog Corner has asked how to verify your Google Plus local listing with your old Google Plus page. Because we are not able to verify it after the Google Plus My Business feature update was put into place. Please help.
Well, he probably didn't get his text message to confirm his identity. That could be. Most of my clients have a similar issue. They don't realize that they're getting a phone call or a text message to confirm their identity. That's all I can think.
This looks like the issue between the two different types versus something new. Because this is an old. This basically, it looks like they have a Google Plus page and a Google Plus local listing, and they're trying to do a merging of it in some ways.
I don't know.
Edwin does have some content here, so let's see what he's. Yeah, it looks like he needs to merge. It looks like he was trying to do some verification of something. I think more or less, I think Edwin's provided the right answer, which is essentially trying to merge. And he's provided the steps for the process. So yeah, I'd go with what Edwin's answer is in the comments.
We just had an update from Tony McCreath at Mission Control in Adelaide, and I've put his response in the chat here. If you're wondering what he did, the $5 bottle, I think he's referring to the wine he's drinking.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
Beer he asked for.
thought he was drinking.
Sponsoring. $5 for a beer and 50 for a whole night. Out.
Okay, so have we covered this for Tech Blog Corner or not? Because I'm lost. He's referring to the wine he's drinking.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
Beer he asked for.
thought he was drinking.
We're getting feedback here, Mr. McCreath. Okay. Well, look, can someone bring me up to speed? Have we covered Tech Blog Corner's question or not? I'll take that as a no, but Tech Blog Corner, I'll put this question in to re-ask it next week, and we should have a better answer for you. Sorry about that. Victor Castillos asks about transferring domain rank. He says, I have a question. One of my friends wants to sell his business. He is moving to another country. His idea is to sell his business with the website included, but before selling it, he wants to go to Google Webmaster Tools and use the tool, the change of address part, to transfer his domain rank. He thinks he can sell the domain, but he will transfer the rank to a new domain for his new business.
No way.
Is this possible? Is this okay? Not sure that it's possible, but certainly not okay. He said, I would say that when the new owner uses Google Webmaster Tool and claims the domain ownership, the rank transfer will stop. What do you think?
It sounds like one of the things that you don't say to others.
Yeah, I just think it's just totally unethical, and yeah, I'm not sure that's the sort of question we want to answer right here.
Even if it worked, which, to be honest, I haven't tried, it doesn't seem like it would be a permanent solution.
No, the link tree stays with the website URL, not with the new owner.
Well, yeah, but with the change of address, then you're trying to do some type of back-end transfer of the domain.
Maybe if you do a 301, possibly.
Yeah.
You know, I've done that myself with my own website.
Yeah. But once it's taken down, once it's fiddled with, then he would lose anything anyway.
Yeah.
So
Just forget about this one.
yeah, it just looks like the guy is trying to sell the domain but keep everything and hide it because he knows the person he's selling it to won't notice in Webmaster Tools, and yeah, it just sounds sketchy.
Well, it is called dumb SEO questions here.
Yeah.
That's true. So what's likely to happen here is even if he was to try and do that, it wouldn't hold. The change of address in Webmaster Tools or 301 redirects that he might try and implement need to be implemented for a while and stable before Google will, I think, honor those directives. So if he's about to sell a domain, for instance, in the next month or 2 months, for instance, he would need to leave these sorts of things in effect for a couple months before Google's likely to action that. So, for instance, if he was to make the change today and then sell the domain in a month, it's likely that once the new owner takes ownership of the domain, the 301 redirects are removed, or he re-verifies Google Webmaster Tools and makes changes again, that the equity probably will come back to his domain, not to wherever Victor's friend might have tried to transfer it to. So it's just a futile thing to do. And I think it's a dog act as well, so he should pull his head in.
Exactly. Okay. All right, Victor, I'll leave it to you to talk to your client. Our next question is from Javed Khatri. It's titled "A Site Catering for Different Languages." And he said this question is regarding canonicals in 302. He said a site caters for different languages, e.g. domain.com/en, domain.com/ru, etc. The issue at the moment is that domain.com and domain.com/en bring up the same content. So I'm concerned with duplicate content issues. He says, should there be a 302 from domain.com to domain.com/en, or would a canonical tag be better?
So this is an interesting kind of a scenario. There's a couple ways you could handle this. One, you could permanently redirect the home page to whatever language he chooses. So for instance, if the home page is always going to be in English, he could redirect that to /en, or he could canonical/en back to the home page to remove that possible duplication. That's one way to approach it. The other way that maybe might make more sense is he implements hreflang, which tells Google, obviously, or helps Google return the right page, language page combination to the right audience around the world based on their location, search query language, etc. The reason that might be interesting is that Google also supports something with that lets you specify the default page for a site. So for instance, a country selector homepage. So let's say that Javid didn't want to redirect the homepage directly with a 301 or a 302 redirect, and instead he wanted to have a country selector type box or map or something like that on the homepage, linking to the EN, RU, TH, all of the different languages that he might carry. That would be completely okay. He could tell Google that the homepage is a default country selector type page, and then rel canonical, hreflang all of the language variations together, and that would be okay too.
It sounds good to me. Javed, I hope you're happy with that. Our next question is from Ryan Kramer. Main categories provided as subdomains. He asks, or he says, I'm considering developing a rather large dynamic site, and I was wondering if anyone has any experience with the structuring of URLs where the main categories are provided as subdomains. For example, category.domainxyz.com versus domainxyz.com/category. Has anyone found SEO value of one over the other?
Well, it's much easier in Webmaster Tools to have just one domain and subcategories instead of subdomains.
Yes, the subdomains sometimes are can be seen as slightly a bit like different sites, not entirely. It's like a mixture between having your own site and a fully separate site. So if it's just categories, that to me it seems more like it would be more appropriate to have it as a domain.com/category than creating it as a fully separate subdomain. But without kind of knowing the full purpose of the site, it's not a fully easy question to answer. But usually keeping it within the same subdomain is preferable from the SEO side, but it's the value will vary depending on what you're trying to accomplish.
Excellent. That was a good point you made, Rob. It'd drive you nuts trying to manage all of those subdomains, which Google views as separate sites.
It's great having the data, though.
Power and Power has another question of us. He asks, which social media websites allow dofollow backlinks?
Or how can I find sites to spam?
Now you're talking.
I hear Reddit's a great community for that. Yeah, I mean, generally I wouldn't focus on that. Some of the sites will allow links to be followed after they've gotten enough upvotes. Others just don't do so at all. So, I mean, I think Reddit in particular is in the former, where after a certain point they'll allow the links to be followed. But yeah, I wouldn't care about that. That shouldn't be the point of what you're doing. If you're purely using those social sites for backlinking purposes, you're going about the wrong direction with your SEO. If you're just looking to kind of know from a standpoint of maybe priority-wise, then I think Edwin's list for what down SEO has is a good area to start with. All right, I covered as much as I could for Jim there. Let's see. You guys want to jump to question 20 then?
Yeah.
All right. I can do a quick cover until he's back. Let's see. All right. So 20 is Google considering all submissions as spam. Hi to everyone. This is by Hari Babu. All SEO experts are noticed that Google is considering all submissions as spam without doing submissions. How do you get to the top? Moreover, right now I'm focusing on submission for last month's onwards. Okay, is it right or wrong? And then is there any alternative options to help suggest to him? That is the question.
So I think he's probably when he says submissions, is he meaning maybe submissions through Webmaster Tools?
I think he means directories.
Could be directories, could be submissions to Google. Take it either way.
Well, if he's doing directory submissions, for instance, don't even bother. The likelihood he'll get any benefit out of that in general, if he's doing bulk submissions, is very low. It puts his website at risk too, because most of those bulk submission directories are just crap quality, and it could lead his website to getting penalized down the road from like a Penguin update, 6 months or 12 months down the road, once he's accumulated enough of these crappy links. By all means, put his business into reputable directories, like the top tier directories in the US, like a Super Pages, for instance, or Yellow Pages, or one of those things, or equivalents in whatever country he's in. If he's talking about submissions through Webmaster Tools, then obviously no, it's not spam. You can submit the URLs and that's fine. You're not going to get penalized for that.
I mean, you can submit spam, but Google will find out real quick.
Yeah.
I think this person has a brand new website, possibly, and he wants to get indexed.
Anyone else on this one? Okay, let's move on. Question 21. This is from Eric Bryant. He says, the people also searched for ribbon and the knowledge graph. How do I get my business to show up in the knowledge graph? And the people also searched for ribbon and
I happen to know Eric Bryan. We used to work together a few years ago.
So there's who am I getting feedback from at the moment?
John, I think you've got feedback.
All good. So the people also searched for list is basically based on Google query data. So when people are doing queries for business A, they refine their query, and if Google sees enough volume of these queries that are connected together as refinements or adjustments, then the businesses or queries will show up inside these also searched for lists. It's, I suppose, in the same way as when you use the auto-suggest feature in Google, that box is also controlled through query volume. So when Google sees sufficient query volume for a term, it might make its way into the suggested queries that drops down in the Google search box. The knowledge graph one is a little trickier. Knowledge graph stuff is coming from a couple of different sources, and it's sort of automated to the large degree. So some of it comes out of places like Wikipedia, some of it comes out of Freebase, and there's another, what's the other one that they bought? Is it Freebase? And there's another index of stuff that that Google bought, right? Like can't think what it's called. In any case, if you do some hunting around, you'll find the other site I'm thinking of. But essentially, you can add your business into one of these other sites, like Freebase, for instance. Google will consume that content in due course, and if it meets all of the quality guidelines for Freebase and subsequently Google, you know, in 6 or 10 weeks' time, you could end up with your business or whatever showing up inside as a knowledge graph object.
Okay, I see John Britsios has joined us. Welcome, John. Okay.
Nice to meet you guys.
All right, so we've question 20 and 21.
22.
Right, we're getting feedback from somebody, guys. Is somebody playing the Hangout as well? All right, so we're on to question 22. Does getting a retweet help SEO? It's again for Pawan Pawar. And you'd like to know if getting a retweet does help SEO. Oh, thanks, Alistair. I think it's been a great night tonight. I think Andre Weyer will be a good panelist. Do you think he'll contribute?
Yeah, it'll be great if he can come along every once in a while and pop his head in and say hi. Be excellent. Yeah. Different opinions and stuff. It's great.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Have a great night, everyone.
Cheers. Ciao. All right. Well, look, I'll answer this for Pawan, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Google does crawl Twitter profiles, but that's as far as Googlebot goes. So if a retweet is on a Twitter, like a tweet, and Google's not crawling it, I'd say it would be safe to say that it can't be used as a ranking signal. Does that sound like a reasonable answer, guys? I'll take that as a yes. Happy's site asks how to identify relevant sites. He goes on to say link building is a critical process, and because of Penguin, I need to know relevant sites. How do I identify relevant sites?
I assume they will be on top of the SERPs.
Yeah. If they're talking Penguin, relevancy is a little bit of a different issue than you would with Penguin. So that part to be aware of. But relevant sites, I mean, Google has its own related : command, site command that you can use, as well as sometimes the knowledge graph will highlight some of that. That can help to provide at least some quick little things that you're looking directly for relevance, but that would be relevant to whatever site you're trying to determine. So that is always an option available to use, beyond kind of what was noted in the community answers there. So that's just something to keep in mind on top of what was noted.
Okay. John Britsios, I'm just putting in the chat there a run list for you. It doesn't need a login. And Tony McCreath has his login, so I'm sure you're set. All right, Happicious, look, the thing I'd like to add to that question is that if you own a website, you know who you identify with. You have suppliers and you have clients. And so your client sites and your suppliers' sites, they're the relevant sites. If your website is for a trade, there'll be trade directories that are relevant to you because that's the trade that you belong to. It seems pretty simple to me. Anyway, Girish Kapoor asks another question. How to submit your website to dmoz.org? John Ritzios, a very long comment in the
chat. You mean the question was, you're asking me if large websites rank better? Is that the question, or?
Look, no. Let me think. I'll just go back. It was a question from Happy to Sate asking how does he identify relevant sites? I mean, sites that are relevant to his website.
Okay, well, relevancy. Relevancy means there are two websites where if you are, for example, an SEO company, a relevant site would be something which is related to SEO, obviously, right? It has to be maybe an SEO company or an internet marketing company or something that falls under the umbrella where SEO falls under. So that would be like a relevant website. Now, if I'm an SEO and I'm going out there and getting some links from, I don't know, a shoemaker website or something like that, well, those links are not related. Now, you're going to say probably that guy is talking about, he has a blog post and he's just writing some tips how he managed, for example, to rank better his website as a shoemaker, for example, and he was just adding some SEO practices, what he did, so that other people in this industry would follow that advice to do, let's say, to rank better and to improve their rankings like he maybe achieved. But it's something, it's a very sensitive thing again to adopt such kind of links, for example, because recently, I don't know, many people heard about that, Doc Sheldon, a very popular copywriter, and SEO now. What he did was he has a blog or a website and he sells copywriting services only, exclusively. And there was a South American who asked to if he could add a blog post, for example, on his blog. And that company, they were talking something about social media marketing. And this ran throughout the web. I mean, Danny Sullivan made also a blog post about it on Search Engine Land, if I remember, where he got a manual action from Google because Google said that social media marketing is not related to content writing or content marketing. So this is something very sensitive. That means overall, my attention would be try to attend to host, to get a link, to get links, to try to acquire links or whatever you want to call it, from websites that are really close as possible relevant. Beyond that, then it will depend on many different factors. For example, one factor which probably will not damage, for example, the butcher, if he had a blog, and on the blog he had different categories. So, and he had a category which is talking, for example, about SEO, or is talking about social media, and there are multiple articles. But when that happens, it will, if he has a blog like that, that will certainly also sort of dilute the power of his main concept, which is going to be, let's say, shoemaker. Make sense?
Yeah. You're referring to the my blog guest, myblogguest.com debacle.
Yes, well, if you're talking about relevant websites when you're trying to figure out to find prospects where you can get some kind of links, to attract links, to your website. I'm not a fan of acquiring links, going out there and looking for links. Personally, what I tend to do is, and I stick to it, and I'm going to continue doing that, is that we try to get out there, to get on our, let's say, on a website of a customer, we add very good content, very attractive content, or maybe even add apps or different other features like tools, like we have on SEO Workers, for example, we have an analysis tool. But the problem only is that if you do something too good, that people are going to link to it, then you have to be sure that you're monitoring your link profile. Because I'm very honest about our company, SEO Workers, I have to tell you that we are suffering under a penguin hit. And the penguin hit was not related to any kind of link building strategies or something like that. Like we went out there and we were building links, directories, article marketing, and stuff like that. We have a tool. It attracts about, at the moment, I think we have now about 12,000 uniques visiting the tool a month. And we got about, more than 30,000 links from all over the place, from China, from all over the world, India, America, everywhere. And at some point in May 2012, we were not aware of all these links. We never looked at our own profile because we never cared. and we're not living from the website, so we didn't really care. And then suddenly comes the penguin, and then bang, we got slapped, and we had a loss of 40, I think 47%, just dropped instant from one day to the other. And since 2012, to be honest, we never had the time. Not that we're the big business, but we're not a huge team. We're only 22 people, but we never had the time to look into it, and we don't make business from the website. And that tool, what we have there, it's free. It's not that we're charging any money for it for people to test their pages or something. And now recently we we really did the forensic SEO stuff. We are more specializing in forensic SEO. So we just went end of May and we just set up our disavow file. Yeah, we're waiting for the penguin, and we're very certain that it's going to recover now, SEO workers, but I'm just telling you that if you do something really good. And on the other hand, but the frustrating thing about it is, though, Mad Cats or John Muller or Google in general, also on their webmaster guidelines, they say, well, write good content, write or do some good apps, do this, do that, that people will link to you, and not you going out there and searching to find which blogs accept guest blogging. Where can I put a link somewhere? Where can I throw a link? Maybe in a web directory, maybe a high quality directory, and just going and running after links. So acquiring links is a strategy we were never fans about it. I mean, obviously, in some cases it is necessary if you don't have the resources or the customer doesn't have the resources. Yeah, you do have to do something like that. It's obvious. But the thing is, what bizarre is that they hit us for links that we even knew that they were linking to us. And that's where I say, with caution, I advise to do this, to follow this strategy to try to get your. I prefer to put our good content on our own website if we have written something really good. Like I created, for example, an extra blog of myself for my own. And on that blog, I post something that I discovered, never been discussed elsewhere, and I just throw it up on my blog. I couldn't throw it up on SEO workers, but I did a blog. I want to have a personal blog, and when I find something new, which is never mentioned in the industry, I put on my own blog. I could have gone to search engine land and say, hey, you know what, Matt or Danny or something, yeah, I have here something new. I have a new discovery about bot herding, for example. I wrote an article, but I don't do it because these things are unique, and I'm the first one. I'm not a rewriter, because we all know that the majority in the industry, they're reading an article from somebody. Danny Sullivan spoke with Matt Katz about something, and he put it up on search engine land, or somebody else, it doesn't matter. Figure out something new, new strategies, new ideas, something cool that nobody else discussed about. And they're going there and just reading it, and then going and rewriting it and putting it on Search Engine Watch to get a link, or putting it on Search Engine Land to get a link, or I don't know. Yeah, so I suggest, rather than guest blogging, to get that stuff on my own website, do a decent social media marketing campaign that it attracts visitors, that it attracts engagement, because engagement also is an indirect factor, ranking factor indirectly, right? There is a patent, they call it kangaroo. I think you guys are Australians, or most of you there. Okay, and there is a patent, they call it kangaroo, where that patent is explaining in detail. I can find it and shoot it in here in a minute. That you might like to read. I posted about that on a forum some years back for an Australian guy I knew there. And well, that is from my point of view how I see and how I prefer to do my work to achieve our targets. We have an impressive results we saw yesterday, and this is the last thing I want to say. We are working on a website. We rebuilt a website 1 year ago, which was smashed in April 24th, 2012. Was smashed in April 2012 from Panda. He got slapped after that from the penguin in April. Then he got another slap, another penguin that pushed him even lower in May 2012 again. 2013, we launched this new website. We built it from scratch. It's an e-commerce. And he's still suffering under the penguin. And we asked Matt Katz on Twitter, and he replied that the customer is still suffering from a level of a penguin, a severity level, medium or something like that. He mentioned something like that. And that told us that there are different severities of filters when it comes to penguin. There's a hard one, there maybe is a medium one, and a less stronger one. And he was still suffering from medium. So the first time we tried to do a disavow, we couldn't find many links, all his links, what we could find after our investigation in 2014. We found paths to be able to find more links because we found only through all the tools we were using, Majestic SEO, Google Webmaster Tools, Open Explorer, we didn't find more than 4,000 links. And the last analysis we did was 3 days ago. And we figured out that we made a list of 43,000 links. So what we did now, we updated the disavow tool, the disavow file, and it has 4,000 domains. And now we're waiting for the recovery. So that means, but the impressive thing is that I have to say, we're not doing any kind of link building stuff. We did exactly what I'm telling you now here. And he is, at the moment, he has 1.07% more traffic than he had at the best times of the history of his company. So the traffic is back, but the penguin didn't hit in yet. We're waiting for the penguin. So we hope that all the efforts we put in there, which is suppressed because filters suppress, right? We hope that the penguin is going to give us another boost. We hope. Because it's impossible that what we did recovered any penguin. Penguin will recover only when it will be updated. So we're looking so much forward, and we're sweating every day waiting for this damn penguin to come over.
Cool, mate. Well, let's hope it all turns out. We're up to question 24. I think we've got another 16 to go, so we should push on. Our next is from Girish Kapoor. How to submit your website to dmos.org.
Forget it.
Anybody? Well, look, I'll answer this for Girish. I notice you've just joined us, mate. Look, DMOS, they've got a form, find the page, fill it in, and then forget about it. Two things will happen, or one of two things will happen. Either you'll get in or you won't. If you don't get in, no point at checking it out. Look, one thing about DMOS, they've got two types of listing. You know, like they've got computers and merchandise and all that sort of thing, and then the other one is an area listing, like a country, a state, a city, and Googlebot seems to prefer the country, state, city type listings rather than generic product listings. So if you're going to select where you'd like a listing on DMOS, that's where I suggest you do it, and look for an area that looks like it's being actually active, because large portions are seen they're defunct because there's nobody to manage them. Anyway, we must move on to our next question, and that is, how can we increase page authority through Google+? And that's again from Girish Kapoor.
Page authority.
I'll just quickly say, while we're waiting for somebody else to jump in, that Google Plus is a website like any other. It's a subdomain of google.com. It's plus.google.com. There are dofollow links available from there, and that would be how you would increase page authority. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, John. We don't stand on ceremony here. You can jump in at any time. I won't ever ask you to answer a question, but if you feel you want to contribute.
Okay, good. Okay, about Google Plus. Google Plus, there was a lot of misconception going on because some SEOs, they were doing some kind of trying to do some scientific research or I don't know what they call them, studies or whatever, and there was a lot of misconception appeared down the road, and now things are getting more and more clear now through the intervention of Matt, I think, recently, where he was explaining also about the effect, if there is any direct or indirect effect into ranking factors in general social media, not only Twitter, not only Facebook, because that is excluded. There was also some more details about Google Plus. Google Plus, they show up, like Tony wrote here and here, they show up in the search results, but that doesn't mean that because they show up in the search results, it's going to be like those pages or authoritative pages. It's like, for sure, they have more power just than a standalone page where you have on your website and Google is going to crawl it than if you're going to add a link into your Google Plus. It's more discoverability, in my opinion, the way from my observations. But when we're talking about authority of a page, well, partially Google Plus could add some authority to a page, but from the moment that when you put that link on the Google Plus, if there's going to be any real engagement, we know already that I don't know how this is going on now with Facebook, for example, that people were going and setting up like services, buying likes, for example, and or shares and stuff like that. Thanks God, Google confirmed recently. They said clearly that it doesn't matter how many pluses you have on an article, it will not have any effect. Not any effect. I mean, effect. They mean it though in a way, not that it will have at all effect if it's done right. What means right? For example, I go out there and I put an article on Google Plus. And I have a bunch of friends, a network, for example, and I say, hey guys, can you come and just plus that article? But people are coming there and they're plussing and plussing and plussing, and I get, let's say, 100 pluses. But the thing about it is that these people didn't click on the link, so they didn't really click on the link to go and see what the article was about. So, and that's what Google is, one of the ways Google can identify now if this is faked or not. It's only one of them. Or, for example, if there are no comments appearing. So if there are real Google Pluses that people really went to that page and they really read that, let's say, article, or they checked that tool or whatever you did there, and then the people plussed it, that tells Google, signalizes that, yeah, really, these guys, they really looked at it, they came back or from that page and they Google plussed it if there was a button there. Another thing is also the engagement. I mean, that people are start adding some juice to starting a discussion, engagement. That you will see that under your blog post that or whatever it was that you put that link there, and you still see people are adding also comments. So the more action around it, but real action and not fake, that does certainly have an indirect effect, let's put it this way, effect to the authority of the individual pages. But relying alone on Google Plus, that's really not worth talking about, because that alone, Google Plus, we all know that Google Plus does not reign in the social media industry yet, so they don't have enough of users to tell that they could use Google Plus as a real social media factor for ranking or factor for authority. The misleading stuff where we had was that there were some guys, they were talking about author ranks and stories like that. So there's not that these people, one of them, I don't want to mention his name, he's very popular, but there was a hangout with another very popular SEO, and he admitted that his studies, he really went very deep into it, but finally he realized that it was not possible to test, to do a real accurate, make a test to get accurate results. So, and I had a private discussion with some SEOs, like we're talking now in a private room, and they all laughed when I said, "Hey guys, you know what? Do you really think that any SEO on the internet has the technical resources and the financial resources to be able to do a study, to be able to tell if something really, how it works with Google? It is physically, humanly, or you want to call it, not possible." So using Google Plus, I added a comment above what I put in a forum and this chat box. I don't know who can see it, maybe it's only us. But I add my opinion about the social media there. So that explains everything, what you will not have any questions about any platform, including Google Plus.
Excellent. So I guess we can sum up for Girish Kapoor, and we can say that the answer is yes.
If it's done right. Only if it's really done right, but could help, but it's going to be a bit from the whole. Authority is a big picture. I mean, you cannot say, okay, I'll use only Google Plus and I'm going to boost my authority. That's not going to work in no case.
Okay. All right. Look, moving along to our next, because we want to finish these before the sun comes up. Girish Kapoor has asked, what is the Wikipedia dead link advantage? He said, and if Wikipedia provides only no follow links, then how is it important for our website? Anybody? I didn't know that Wikipedia links were no follow. They haven't always been that way, have they?
Always.
Always?
No.
Many years ago they changed it.
Yeah, I remember a time when they weren't. Yeah. Yep. Who's valuable, Tony McCreeve?
Wikipedia. Wikipedia, not everything is about links. There is another factor which we call, what Google calls in their patents, citations and co-citations. So if I get a link on Wikipedia, want to link to my website, let's say under the page SEO, and it has my name, or it has my company name, or it has a fat text link, anchor text, whatever, search engine optimization, and it's no follow, I would appreciate it almost equally if it was a followed link. Just for short.
Well, and besides that,
co-citations.
Besides that, you get traffic from Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is used for the knowledge graph.
Yeah. Also, yeah. It does need to be a followed link for the knowledge graph. That's correct.
Okay. Well, Girish, are you happy with that response? Just type yes in the chat if you are. Okay, I'm going to take it as a yes, Girish, because we're still struggling to get through to the end here. Number 27 on your run list, guys, is from Ryan Kramer. How to get a top-ranking site more visited? Any ideas besides social media and ads? It's a very broad question, Ryan. If we don't get a great answer, a more specific question, we'll get a better result next time.
How do we get more traffic? Well, the question is very general, in my opinion.
Does somebody have an elevator statement for Ryan?
You just have to have good content. I mean, I'm number one on anything that I do in my company, and it's because it's good content. So if you're on the top, you're pretty much rewarded that way.
Yes, but how to get more visitors besides social media and ads? I'd be exploring other avenues because I mean, if the site is top ranking, it may well be receiving its the optimal percentage of the available market anyway. So if I was in that happy position of having a top ranking site, it's been a long time since Googlebot loved me. But if you have a top-ranking site, it's probably time to start looking at how many of those visitors you are converting, how many of those visitors actually are identifying with your site and connecting and buying your product. That might be a more fruitful endeavour. Ryan, if that's not enough of an answer for you, please feel free to ask it again this week on the SEO Questions community on Google+, and we'll be happy to do it again. Hari Babu asks, is it possible to be top on search engine result pages without commenting on blogs?
Well, of course.
Yes. The answer from Rob Mars is of course. Actually, I must be hearing ghosts because Rob Mars is no longer with us. He must have just dropped off.
I said of course.
Ah, right. Okay, Klaus. Are you still in New York, or have you moved to San Francisco yet?
No, I'm Monday morning, 7:23 a.m. I'm out of here.
Okay.
I never comment on any blogs, and I'm in number one on everything. So, I just want to make a quick comment to the previous question. Conversion rates on a mobile phone. So you can be in number one position, get very little traffic if a lot of people are looking at your website on a mobile phone and it's just not interactive. It's not user-friendly. And like you said, Jim, you can be in number one and nobody likes what you have to offer or to sell, and then they just move on. And sometimes number one position is not the best one to be in. I sometimes find 2 or 3 is a better one, because people shop. That's all I have to say to the previous question.
Well, to this number one, allow me to say something. I agree with you fully that being number one not necessarily means that you're going to get the traffic you expect, or if you get a certain amount of traffic that you're going to get the conversions you expect. But there's another factor which many people miss, is that depends also on the title tag and on the description what will be displayed in the search results, right? Because if the title tag is not inviting, or the description is not clearly stating where I'm going to head to if I'm going to click on the link, people might ignore if it's confusing or it's not clear enough. And let's say number 2 has a badass title, an inviting and very precise title of what you're doing, and a very precise snippet like a description. So, and there is what I sent now, the last link I sent here is a post I did on Web Pro World a while ago. It was about this topic where if people, let's say people are clicking your number 1 or something, and they're clicking and coming to your site, and then they're coming back again to Google and they do a search again. That is what we say bounce rate, but we're talking not bounce rate of what you see in the analytics, the bounce rate that they came to your site and then they went back and they did a search again to find the same thing. So that tells Google, signalizes if it increases the number of bounces, it tells Google that people are not finding what you're claiming, so you don't deserve to be in that position. And that is the pattern where it's in the link, what I said now in the chat a minute ago. I just need to mention, so I know cases where customers were really number 1 and they really didn't make money. And that didn't make any sense. And then we worked out the titles, we fixed the title, we fixed the description, and then he starts kicking in, but big time. So it's very important to take that into account. It's not just ranking high. Ranking high alone does not really help, and sometimes it can hurt. Makes sense.
So people are not going to do a search, click on number 1, and if they don't find what they want, they're not going to go and do another search. They're just going to go to number 2 and number 3.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people think, well, you know, by writing a more inviting title, that's going to help them. We all know if you change your title, you're going to drop in your rankings. The title is very important for your ranking. So if your site is up there for 10 years, 20 years, you don't want to mess with your title. If you are a brand new website, you want to be careful today what it is you're going to write in there.
So if I have 10 years of website and I'm using the same title, but it's not performing, I'm getting a lot of visitors, but they're not buying, should I change the title?
You're going to drop in your ranking.
Why are you going to drop in the rankings alone from the title?
Just by changing the title, that's correct. You can change maybe 1 word or 2 words, but if you change the whole title altogether, you're going to drop. Try it.
Well, if you're going to change a few words, you're not going to take out maybe your keywords.
Well, I have changed the last 2 words on my title over the years, and I retained my ranking. I have had people change the entire title, and it changed their ranking completely.
Well, I had a different experience with multiple customers, but what I don't suggest is to change frequently the titles. It's not like going live and testing, changing your titles, and you test it and you wait for a few weeks, and then you say, oh, it didn't really help. Then you go and do it again. There is something similar what Google is doing, and 2 years ago, what you're saying, I mean, what changed within the last 2 years about the title tag, this is it's far different the way Google was treating the title tag 2 years ago. That's something I have to really emphasize. And number 2, Google has a kind of, they called it transition rank the patent, but Google refused that they use it. But from my experience, they certainly do have to a certain degree. They're using a technique which is mentioned in the algorithm called transition rank. That means if Google sees that you're attempting all the time doing changes, you're changing your title tags, or you're changing, I don't know, you're doing major changes. A title tag would be considered like one of the major changes, what you said. But if you're going to do that frequently, what they're doing is that they will kick you back, they could drop you down from where you are. If you're number 1, they can push you down to number 5, to number 10, to number 7, to number 3. They can do that, but they do it for a certain period of time. The reason they explain that in the transition rank algorithm pattern is because people are trying to spam, so to get temporary results. And people tend though to change all the time, frequently, things on the website just to improve. But you have to take into consideration that a title tag alone is one of 500 now ranking factors. And it's not one of the strongest ones anymore like it used to be. I have to emphasize, not like it used to be. I'm talking only from real life experience with customers' websites, with our own. We have different blogs too that we have the chance to do testing.
All I'm saying is
I don't recommend. I agree with you. Yes, I don't recommend. But if you see that you're not working, it's not
I'm
working.
saying it will have an effect. To what degree, who knows? I mean, I had Google even compose a brand new title for my website. Okay, and
yeah,
then,
they can do that. Yeah,
of course.
but
okay.
that's because the title wasn't relevant enough.
Well, they did it, but then they changed it back to the way I had it. It does have an impact. How much? Nobody really knows. So
Yes,
changing
correct.
the title is not a good thing.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if you change the title to a better title, it can be a good thing. You can raise
Yeah,
it.
but immediate. I understand that, but it's going to take some time to get your ranking back because it's going to be reassessed.
Yeah, okay, yes, they need to reassess. Yes, that is correct. Yeah, well,
in the meantime, you're going to drop, and then you may come back, yeah, depending on, on what it is.
Yes.
What about when people are A/B testing? You know, I mean, there's nothing cut and dried in this. I don't think you can make the sweeping statement, Klaus. There's no certainty that changing your title tag will cause you to drop. Surely.
Yeah.
Well, what I would pay attention is that in your description and in your title, you're not using any words that are not keywords that are not found in the document. I mean, it's everything, Google, everything is about relevancy. So our analysis tool, this free tool, what we have on our website, we do that analysis where you can tell if your title tag is relevant to the content of the page. So if you have a page and you're talking about, I don't know, about SEO, and you slap and you don't have anywhere on that page, you're talking about SEO, and you don't have the word social media in that content, and you slap the word social media in the title, or you slap it in the meta description, that will decrease the relevancy of your title or description, no matter where you plugged in a keyword which was not found in the content. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
It does make sense. I'm just wondering if we can cut down the word count so that we can go to bed before the sun comes up, John.
Sorry.
Okay. No, don't be sorry. I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. Yeah, as I say, we cover 40 questions a night. If we spend 30 minutes on each one, that's 20 hours.
We still have 4.
Okay.
I don't know if we're dealing now with people who have a clue or not, you know, because, you know, you have to be a bit precise for people who don't really know some things to that they understand the concept, right?
No, well, look, we can have a signal, John. If I put my hand up like this, I'm looking at my watch, and if I go like that, I'm shaking it.
Okay, you ring the bell, yeah. Okay.
We also could all just wave.
Hey, John, what is your website, by the way?
I didn't hear that.
John, what is your website URL?
Oh, our website. Oh, that's crap, man. We did a redesign, but we didn't have a chance yet to launch it. But this is the one.
I was looking at John's profile. You've got half the URLs in the world on your profile. You're hoarding them, I think, John.
Well, I have in my profile all my profiles that are on the web, different platforms, you know, wherever. Well, it's to boost authority or author rank. No, I'm kidding, man.
Okay. Well, look, just summing up, getting back to that question that we were covering, it was from Hari Babu, who asked, is it possible to be top on a search engine results page without blog commenting? And with your permission, guys, I'll summarize. Of course it's possible, Hari, and in fact, blog commenting is probably likely to do you harm rather than any good. So yeah, there are lots of things you can do without blog commenting, and if you'd like to ask a more specific question for next week, we'll be more than happy to answer it. In the meantime, try searching on SEOquestions.com. All of the previously answered questions are searchable, and each one has a queue time, so you don't have to waste too much time getting to it. All right, here's a question I should have combined with one of our earlier questions because it's very similar. It's from Julius Park, and he asks a website structure for a local business with multiple locations. He goes on to say, how would you structure the web presence for a local business with multiple locations? For example, would you recommend having an individual website for each business, or having one main website with pages or subdomains for each of the locations? Which is easier to rank?
The first one.
Yep.
The reason is, if you're not a millionaire and you need to feed all the other websites, I'm wondering today and nowadays with Penguin, how are you going to get links to accommodate all those locations, to feed all those, let's say, websites with plenty of equity and all the other factors, to fulfill all the other factors to rank for all of those. I recommend to have those all on one place. Financially seen, basically. Sure, you can do it if you have money and you can have the time, but everything is possible. You can do the same with one website or 20 websites, but it depends on the budgets and the resources in general.
That's a good point you make, because although Google prefers that merchants only have the one website, these days with Penguin running 12 months at a time, sometimes it doesn't make sense to put all your eggs in one basket, does it?
Well, to have maybe a second website, I would recommend. I mean, if you are not certain what you're doing and you're not monitoring your link profiles, continuously, and you're not doing your homework, it's obvious that it would be a good idea to have a second website. But to have multiple websites, well, the question is, how are you going to rank them all? Do you have so much money? Link building doesn't work like it used to work before. Before people went out there, they slapped 100 directories or 500 directories, and there the page rank comes in, and now we're ranking. But these things don't exist. And content marketing will help you, but content marketing is expensive, right? You have to write top content. You have to involve social media to grab users, to create engagement, people to link to you if they like it, and stuff like that. So we're not living anymore in the non-Penguin time. That's just a general, how to say it, man? Logic. It's just logic, right? For example, we're working with a customer. He has only one website, e-commerce site. We build that website, and we are taking care of him since we started 2012. I talked about before, who was hit from the Penguin. But we are very certain that when he's going to come out from the Penguin, he's never going to fall back into that trap, because we are taking care of him. I mean, he has the resources and he pays us, and we're making sure that he's going to stay safe. But you understand, it's just a matter of budgets and resources.
Fair
it's
enough.
not my opinion. It's just a fact. So.
Yep. Yes, it's a vexed question. It would be good to follow the guidelines to the letter, but if it means you're putting your neck on the chopping block, then a little bit of common sense is needed. Is that fair comment, or was it just me talking crazy?
Fair enough, brother.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to the next. This is from Ramya Venkat. I'm getting feedback from somebody. It says, should we add no follow to footer links? Is somebody putting feedback through? Or is somebody running the Hangout in another window or something? That's better, that's fixed. No, it's back again. Guys, can you all mute your mic for me while I get this question out of the way? John and Klaus, I think. Could John and Klaus mute their mics for me? Just that mouse on top of the chat there and just click the mute microphone.
Oh, is it me? You have an echo.
Okay.
Okay. Answering about no follow in the footer.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just read the question. It's hi all. One of my clients' websites have text links at the bottom of the page. These are the same text and anchor page as on the top menu. I suggested to the client that this may not look good for search bots, but the client likes the bottom links and he does not want them removed. In this case, is there any way to make these text and links not crawlable? I've heard that if we add no follow to the bottom links, bots will still crawl them. They're wrong. Please suggest if you have any ideas for this.
Okay, having a second time, 2 times a link on a page or 3 times a link on a page for Google, it's not a problem at all. That's number one. Recently, Matt Katz clarified that in a YouTube video. The reason many people were doing that, like adding a nofollow in the past, was because they called that technique, which was invented from SEOs, invented this page rank sculpting. Google came out in 2010. I never did page rank sculpting. I have to add this here. I was always against it, and I still am. What happened was Google turned out and they said, okay, if you have 10 links on a page and you disavow, nofollow, let's say 2 links, they said that time that the page rank would pass to the other pages will get lost. So that means that you will only choose for 8 of those 8 links, and the 2 links, the juice that they carried, those links, they would disappear. Well, appears like that was not real what's being said from Google. Page rank sculpting, yes, does work, but I don't see a reason why doing that. When Matt Katz said if you have 2 links on a page, let's say that you have a service and you really, really want that service page to rank best from all your pages. Just an example. So let's say SEO services on an SEO site. And I have it in the navigation and I have it in the footer. If you have if there are going to be 10 links overall on the page, you have 2 links which are going to go to the SEO services page. That means you will pass more juice than all the other individual links to that page. So there is no reason from that perspective to add a nofollow to the second link if you want that page to rank better, which is in your navigation and in the footer. That's one concept. Google has no problem even if you have 5 links pointing to the same page. That's not a problem. That was a misconception from some SEOs that they did some studies and stories like that. Number 2 is that if it's a footer link or it's a navigation link, they don't carry the same power than if the link would be in the content somewhere in text. Somewhere you have a block of text and you're saying, yeah, we offer SEO services because blah, blah, blah. A link like that in the content carries more power than the main navigation links or the footer links, because main navigation links and footer links, we call them boilerplates because they're repeated site-wide. So there is no reason to do that, but if you feel like you don't want, for example, a page, you don't really need that to rank better, like let's say you have a privacy policy. Okay, that would be maybe a good reason not to have a nofollow in the footer, for example, or if it's like the, I don't know, the sitemap, or if it's something where you really don't think you need it to rank or to show up in the search results. It might make sense. Personally, I don't use nofollow for any means when it comes to internal links. Maybe I'm a purist, but because the real reason which the nofollow has been implemented from the search engine was for comment spam. And now they say officially on their website too, on the Webmaster Guidelines, that you can use nofollow for internal pages if you want to guide the bots for the PageRank flow. I'm explaining a little bit about that on algohunters.com on my blog. I have a very, very good blog post, which you probably didn't read elsewhere, something like that, or at that level. It's about...
May I interrupt?
Sorry?
May I interrupt?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. A few weeks ago I had the discussion with John Mueller, and there he said that if you use footer links, and in many cases people use their menu in the footer links, but they also add, by that way, a lot of similar keywords in there, and that could be seen as keyword stuffing.
Oh,
so,
that's different. Okay, you're talking anchor text.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
People tend to do that. They add the anchor, the keyword in front of the menu item, and then it starts looking like keyword stuffing, and that can be punished.
Yeah, the one is SEO, the other SEO services, the other SEO I don't know what, and you have pointing to the same page. Yes, yes, yes. Well, I didn't take it so far. Good. Thank you for the contribution, brother.
And I think you can use nofollow for crawl efficiency. Like you said earlier, you can use it for your HTML sitemap or your terms of service. And basically, Google has...
If Google can crawl 2 million pages from Misha in a day, then most sites will have a problem there.
Indeed, yes. It's a small thing. Very small.
Next question.
Okay, summing up for Romeo Venkat, can we say that Googlebot prefers that you don't add nofollow to internal links? You should allow crawlability and allow PageRank to flow freely throughout your site. You can do yourself harm if you start nofollowing. Also, Rob Mars is pointing out what John Mueller said recently. And you can usually take what John Mueller says straight to the bank. Edwin Yock, oh look, I don't know how we've done it, guys, but we've got through all of our questions. We get another week. This is the point where we move from the SEO Questions community on Google Plus to the SEO News community on Google Plus. And through the week, we add items of interest which pop up through the week and discuss them and put them into a news roundup, which is archived on dumbseoquestions.com. The first one we've already discussed quite a lot tonight, but I suppose we should sum it up, and that is the change or the announcement made by John Mueller this morning. John said that the impact on the click-through ratio should vary from limited to none. Barry Schwartz's comment on this was that he wasn't sure that he believed that. yeah, I think when all things are taken into account, I don't think the loss of the picture is going to make a big difference to most people. But anyway, I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say.
Hold on a second. Let me see. Google penalties. Can you get a mail? I missed the question, I think, Jim, but about the 2,000 domains.
In the thread, I like Dave Elliott's comments. Must stop people not clicking on AdWords, as organic listings look prettier. That's a funny one.
The news item we're covering is number 31 on your run list, guys. Well, we have covered it fairly well anyway. Let's look at Tim Capper, the next article, number 32 on your run list. Tim Capper complaining about Fiverr, which is offering on their site under this week's top gigs reputation management issue where somebody is offering a service to damage ads on Craigslist, 10 Craigslist ads for $5 destroyed. Comments, guys?
I'm not a fan. Well, I'm not a fan of reputation. How do you call it? Online reputation monitoring. It proves in many cases that there is no real way to defend yourself like people used to do in the past, like trying to outrank, let's say the Craigslist one, for example, to outrank it. Like we had a customer from the US, a very, very, very big customer, where he'd been attacked and people, there was a network where they were going on Yelp and some other one, Consumer Reports or whatever. And he asked us if there is a way that we can eliminate that very quick and that stuff. And we said no. Then he moved to another company. They said, yeah, well, what we're going to do is we're going to try to boost the keyword, what they're finding these Yelp that they're showing up and trying to boost that keywords and rank your website, maybe rank different other pages. And what they did was they start over optimizing the anchor text. And what happened was the website was ranking number 9 for their biggest term, which was florist, correct? And suddenly they disappeared from the surface after the first penguin in 2012. So I'm not really impressed about this online reputation management stuff. The only thing is that I would do is, and there was another technique. What they did was they tried to find people to go and add fake comments on Yelp. Those guys were caught because they were offering local service, and there were coming comments from the Philippines on Yelp. They were coming from Indonesia. They were coming from Brazil, and I don't know where else. And Yelp, many SEOs know that here, that Yelp, they tweak their algorithm that they can catch fake comments and stuff like that. So, and they really got smashed to death. It took them about 9 months to get back to the surface first because there was a penguin issue. But we didn't continue working with them because we said we are not willing to go into any kind of fake strategies to solve your problem. Now, if there are any other techniques in online reputation management, I'm not very sure, but I'm trying to imagine and I can't. If somebody else has any idea, without faking or manipulating, I don't know.
No, I think you've summed it up very, very well there. Let's move on to our next news item. And this is, I think, a very significant one. Google to sell domains. And I posted this one. My question is, I wonder if this will mean that they will be the only option available to sanitize toxic domains from the aftermarket. When a domain is resold, or when a domain lapses and goes through the process and eventually becomes available, to all intents and purposes, it's a new domain. But the problem is that it has a history that Google will count against it if it's been used for nefarious purposes in the past. Now, Google is the only search engine that declares domains to be toxic, and if they're now going to sell domains, is this ethical?
Okay, number one, this Google Domains is just a pure business. Google is already a registry. They always been, but what they didn't do was they didn't promote a service like providing domains. But Google doesn't need to sell domains that we need to host our domain on their platform. I mean, on their registry, to be able to identify, to check the who's, who was the previous owner, who is the new owner, or the history. They don't need that. There is no need. This is just a new business model, right? Now, if a domain has a bad history, yeah, well, the thing is, if there is a new owner, if the links are still living out there pointing to the domain, even if the domain changed an owner, certainly that will have a negative effect on the new owner. In that case, the only way to, if you're gonna go and get an already used domain, my recommendation is to do a link profile analysis. If you see that it's infected already from like they call toxic links, which is not an official thing, but I don't know, Detox, this guy who has Detox, Christoph, found that term, I think. But anyway, if they're bad links, let's call it that way, bad links, or if they're links that are completely unrelated. If the person is so keen to get the domain, it doesn't matter where he's going to get the domain, if he's going to get it on Google or he's going to go somewhere else. He has to certainly have to fix the domain if it's infected, and he still wants to have it, he's keen to have it, and just go and clean up the link profile by using the disavow, uploading the disavow. And if he's going to have a new design, it's going to be not a website already being used before. If there was also a website being used before, a recommendation is to redesign and not use the previous existing website design. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. But I mean, there are edge cases, aren't there? Like if the domain incurs a penalty that, say, might hold for a year, or I don't know how long Google. I'm not pretending to know how long Google puts in place. They all vary. But regardless of what the unknowing new owner does, it may not necessarily be the links pointing at the site. It could just, the site could be penalised, and no matter what they do, they'll just never get it to index or rank.
I'm not convinced about that. I mean, there is always a way to get you back. There are some manual actions. It depends on the severity of the action. How bad the spam was, for example, IP cloaking or some kind of, like we call it, black hat stuff, right? Let's call it black hat stuff. It is certainly a way to recover. There is no way that a domain can be destroyed forever, but manual actions could go up to a year. but up to a year means that if there was no action from the webmaster in between. Now, even if you recover from a manual action, it was a severe one, it doesn't mean that you gain your trust right away back from Google because you fix the problem. So where you're going to have a disadvantage is that for a while, and that could take up to a year, that you will not rank where you're supposed to rank just because you have that record, let's call it, that black...
sorry to interrupt though, John, but if that were the case, why are Matt Cutts and John Mueller advising that in some cases it's better for people to forget that domain and go and get another one?
Because it could be difficult to recover. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about this. Matt Cutts, yes. It could be difficult to recover, and the meaning of difficult to recover is, does everybody know how recovery strategy works? How does it really work? Does everybody know how to do forensic SEO? Does everybody know, for example, people are going out there, for example, they get smashed and they're using different tools, cognitive SEO, link detox, or whatever, and these tools are telling them, hey, you know what? These links, you have to disavow them. These are bad links. So what happens there is that because no tool out there really can tell you effectively with just pushing the button, it crawls aside the links, it checks them out, and you push the button, creates disavow, and you throw it up. I know many people who did that, and they killed themselves. They didn't even see a recovery, but they lost what they already have left. So. And we're talking about that there were good links being uploaded. That was the problem. Now, if somebody knows how to fix the problems, certainly it could work. But when Matt Cutts says this quite difficult, it depends on how you do the work, if you know how to do it. And not many people really know. Let's face it now, right? I mean, I'm one of the few SEOs, I think, that I'm very... to 90% concentrated on forensic SEO, right? So I mean, I know my stuff, but not every SEO who calls himself an SEO knows forensic SEO. But other SEOs have power, strengths in, I don't know, content marketing, or they have strengths in writing good descriptions, titles, and stuff like that. Or others, they know some technical SEO, good technical SEO. Yeah, there are different strengths. So if it's difficult for people who don't know. Very simple. But that it's not possible, I deny that big time. Does that make sense?
I even think that statement was made by Matt and John before the disavow tool was introduced. But I'm not quite sure about that. And without the disavow tool, you would have always had the problem of bad links to your website.
Yes, that would not be a solution. Yes, correct. But we have the disavow, man. If the disavow wasn't there, yes, I agree. There is no way.
Doesn't believe it works.
Yeah, the problem is that you know, we have the not redirects. How do we call it, Tony? Not redirects. The browser side one. That when somebody is pointing to your site and you're redirecting somewhere else. Referrals, HTTP referrals. Well, if HTTP referrals would work, like if they would be considered like 301s, then we wouldn't need the disavow. But because that doesn't work, and without the disavow, absolutely, I fully agree, no way that you can fix a domain. But since we have the disavow, there is no reason anymore to believe that a domain cannot be fixed. Do you agree, Rob?
I agree, with less words.
Okay. I'm a trainer, man. I need to I always have to go in details. Okay.
I must say, John, I'm very impressed with those 2 links that you put into the chat so rapidly. Do you have all of those categorized on a panel in front of you, do you?
Well, I have, yeah. I have a TXT because I used it for a customer to show him what has been done and the current state. Because I give this information to customers so they feel confident that it's not from me, but it's from the Googlers. I can shoot them all in one here if you want. Here. There are a bunch. I mean, I needed those for my customers.
Link bait.
Link baiting, yeah. for Barry Schwartz, though, not for me.
All right. Okay, so we're satisfied that Google Domains is not going to be any great threat. We can move on to the next news item, which was posted by Edwin Yonk. And it was about apparently that Google Panda 4 has been hitting sites that block CSS and JavaScript from being crawled. And Barry Schwartz, he's not believing this one either. It happens, Barry. He said, I find it hard to believe that there's any correlation to blocking CSS and JavaScript with Google Panda 4. Sorry. Well, fair enough. What do you guys think?
Okay. Panda alone Panda. The problem with blocking the JavaScript or the CSS in the robots.txt has nothing to do with the Panda. The Panda, what the Panda is doing, they're going to look at a page, and Panda does not. It's not only about content. There are many other factors into the Panda, right? We have to all agree with that. So it's also about the layout of the page and stuff like that, and where things are placed, elements, and all that stuff. So we have other algorithms in addition to the Panda, which is the top-heavy one, for example, which a big part of it, I believe, from my observation, that it's already they have a sort of part of it in the Panda already. So I see that they're trying to put all these algorithms in one, to operate as one, especially the top-heavy, the Penguin, and the Panda. The thing is, what happens is, if you're blocking the JavaScript or the CSS, that means that Google will give us the opportunity to spam them, because with JavaScript, I can hide text from Google, but I can show it to users, for example. You don't need to do it server-side. You can do it with JavaScript. You can do it with CSS. You can do this z-index, where in the CSS, where you push some keywords off the screen that the user doesn't see it. So I'm certain that you're making Google suspect you that you're trying to hide something when you're blocking those. But in the case of Panda, it's not because Google suspected or Panda suspected and they hit you because of that, but they could not see the page or the content the way they would see it if CSS and JavaScript has not been blocked. So if you're trying to hide from Panda some stuff on your page, or you're not letting them to see how the user see it, and they don't pick up the way you're really presenting it to the user, yeah, it's obvious that Panda could have a failure in the evaluation of your pages. What do you think, Rob? Makes sense? There are discussions going on.
I was doing something else.
Sorry? Sorry, Rob?
I was doing something else, so Rob Wagner can answer.
Okay.
Well, this article was in response to a Yoast article claiming,
yes.
And I think Barry is right here, because the Panda algorithm needs to run again. It's such a short timeline that I don't think there was any recovery possible.
Well, usually they go every 10 days or something. Don't they run every about 10 days? Average?
Yeah, and then you get hit but you have to wait. What was the latest? 3 months or 1 month? Or it's not like in 2 weeks you can you can get hit, and the next week it's all shiny again.
Then I think I need to prove the opposite.
Much quicker nowadays.
Now it's around every 10 days or something. And I have to say that there were 2 pandas happened in April. When was Panda? 2011, I think. There were
this
2.
This goes over 3 days. Do you really think it is possible for Panda recovery for?
No, that's not possible. I mean, only if the Panda would come out the next day. No, that won't happen. But I'm talking. I'm gonna call my Google Analytics and show a screenshot if I can find that quick.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, that's possible.
I'm looking at the image from Yoast.
2 weeks, it's possible. It's not Panda. Panda is something. Penguin is different, but Panda they crawl. I think every 10 days an average or something. I mean, or 2 weeks or something. And I have a case when the Panda first time came out. Was that 2011, guys? Now I'm a bit confused. Let me see. 11, and 11. Let me have a look. 11. So let's go here. No, or 2012. I'm not certain anymore.
This is the image provided by Yoast.
Okay, hold on a minute. Customization, and then we need E2. No, not E2 page results. Unique visitors, all traffic resources. Okay, let's go to Google. Let's see if it was here. Okay, Google Organic. Okay, let me see, and that was 2011, I think. Doesn't anybody remember when the Panda came out? Was that 2011?
2010, I think.
10. Yeah, man, because I'm thinking...
February 2010.
Yeah, okay. Let me see something.
It spawned the longest thread ever seen on the Google Webmaster forum.
Let me see a minute here. This doesn't make any sense. That was April. Okay, so March.
Before that, you had the farmer update.
25th, and we go to, let's say, May 25th. I hope this is the one. Yeah, here we go. So I'm going to send you a screenshot from a customer. Here. Now, this was a Panda, so I can send you a screenshot.
It was 2011, the Panda farmer update.
I found it. Yeah, I found it. I was confused. Okay, let me see here. So
2010 was the May Day.
We have viewers that don't have the benefit of the chat that we can all see in the Hangout here. So if you could just describe for them as well.
Okay. 21st of April, Saturday 21st of April, the site was smashed from the Panda and came back on the 28th. So that's the screenshot I wanted to share, but I can't find our window. Oh shit, okay. Well, okay, close this one, and yeah, just backing up the Panda because, yeah, well, there are a lot of assumptions, but I'm just looking at some facts, you know, that's what I'm trying to show here. Here. Okay, close this one here. So you see that line went down, and after the Panda, then he had a huge increase. It was more than before, if you look at that screenshot. So there was an update at the beginning of April, and there was an update at the end of April. So we went in and we fixed right away. It took us, I think, 4 days to fix all the issues on the site. We were working day and night. Then we sat back and we were hoping if it's ever going to happen again. You know, it was new. Yeah, and then came the next update, and bang, it was back within the same month. So and that happened in 2011, where Panda was not frequently updating. That was only at the beginning. They did 2, and then they were coming every few months. And now they plugged it in, and we know now an average, they said something like 10 days. Every 10 days it's coming. So if you do something within those 10 days, for example, maybe you won't recover immediately after 10 days. Maybe you'll recover at the next update, because Google also probably, I don't know now if they are just doing it live, the testing, which I can't believe because it's rendering required and all that. So maybe they need some time to recrawl the site and reassess everything what's being changed, or if anything has been changed and something like that for the rendering stuff process. But otherwise, yeah, here is my experience, what I had with the Coupon Scoop as the company from the US.
I'll just interrupt there, John, then you can continue. It's okay to share that link, isn't it?
Yeah, that's okay. It's just a screenshot without any names. It's good.
Yeah. For those that are viewing, if you go to PRN, tscr.com, printscreen.com, /3WPL1Z. And you'll see the screenshot that John is referring to. Sorry, John, go ahead, mate.
No. I think we covered that topic. Not that I get too long again. If we start talking about Panda, I'm going to be talking until next year.
Okay. What's interesting about that screenshot, it's based on 250,000 sessions. There's little reason for doubt. So to me, that's a very good job. I've never done anything like that.
Oh, that Panda is easy if the site is in good shape and there are some minor changes and they're found and spotted, and that could be fixed. In some cases, you probably even need to redesign, but that's very seldom. Or content might take time to do the content. I mean, it's just the time thing, how long you need to get the stuff done. But for Panda to recover, that's fast and pretty easy.
All right. Well, look, let's move on from news item number 34 and go to 35, which is has been posted by Edwin Yonk with the title of "Does anyone have anything good to say about Yellow Pages?" Well, no, that was Tony McCreath, it was an article about. It was published at energize.co.nz. Yellow Pages sell the same website 3 times. And the tag after it is Yellow Pages in New Zealand and Australia are selling duplicated websites to customers and telling them they are SEO friendly. What comments do we have on this, guys?
Well, do you know the Demos scrapper sites? Demos, there are people that they scrap demos and they create they call it, let's say, gym demos or gym mods or something like that, Google is aware of those, and Google does not consider them as trusted, so they usually would, based on their claims, they would not pass any equity. So if you want those to be present on different other websites on copies of Yellow Pages, well, if they're visited, it's good for traffic, but if you're going for SEO purposes, you're on the totally wrong track. because Google would not add value to such kind of links. And Sugore, an SEO lady, she was explaining about disavows, and she was saying that you don't need to add, for example, the scrapped demos sites in your disavow because Google already ignores them. Well, I have that opinion too, but I cannot now put my hand on the Bible and swear that that's the case. But if we're looking at to what Google is preaching, that makes a lot of sense because they're just duplicated content. But on the other hand, it doesn't mean that they will not be indexed, right? I mean, these pages get indexed. We know a lot of scrapper sites out there, but that's why Google now was begging us to go, if we catch any people grabbing our content, then we can report them, and there is a tool for that. I think Matt Katz mentioned, and I can put it in here, but I'm just mentioning they're just scrapper sites, so they're not trusted from Google. So if somebody told them that for SEO purposes is great, I would run away. I would be very careful. If they're asking for money, if they're not asking for money, well, who cares? If they have traffic and you get some traffic, why not? You know? Scrapper report. So here we go. Yeah, another link would be, if somebody disagrees, please. Okay, here we go. But I disavow such scrapper sites. I mean, everything that is scrapped, demos, and any others, I just put them into disavow. That's it. Because I just need to be on the safe side. Because when I know that Google really cannot handle, I send the link where people can report if somebody stole your content or scrapper sites and shit like that.
Yeah. Anybody else on this one? All right.
Well, the content on that page wasn't from the business owner. It was just she doesn't sell the stuff on that page. Do you get it? Or so she wasn't scraping anything.
No, I'm not saying that she's in violation. Violation are the guys who are scrapping like yellow pages. It's like, okay, let's put it this way. You have two shops, and you build two shops. They're exactly identical, but they are on a different domain. Which one you think Google will take into account once they realize that the site is duplicated? If that wasn't an issue, I would go out there and build multiple shops, just copy and paste from, let's say, a customer who's selling vacuum cleaners. It will have multiple domains, exactly the same content, exactly everything the same, only the domain different. So if we're talking about a mirroring of yellow pages, you have to think about that. I mean, duplicate content. Or I come and I download your website and I plug it under a domain. You understand? That's what I understood.
Yeah, but the other stores probably didn't sold those products either. It's just a template that yellow page is reused over and over again.
It's not the same content. So yeah. It's not pulling the database from yellow pages, but it has individual content. I mean, its own content.
No. Business owners can host a site at yellow pages. They offer that service. And what Yellow Pages did here was just using a template with a couple of products and sold that to 3 different businesses. And I don't think they are selling those. The products listed on the template, those 3 business owners, they don't sell those products. They don't sell the art. Makes more sense now, or?
Yes. Okay. So we're talking about hosted sites, not scrapping yellow pages. Sorry, then I misunderstood something. Okay. Oh, okay.
And I think Yellow Pages is just being dishonest here.
Yellow Pages have been smashed. I think Yellow Pages Australia, what was that? You remember that? Do you guys remember in Australia they were smashed? Yellow Pages sell the same website 3 times. New Zealand Design Services. So they're just selling the same template to everybody. Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay. Well, okay. We're not talking here about duplicated content, because it would be retarded if Google would start hitting people using the same template when people have no money, webmasters, and they go to Monster, how do you call it, Monster, they sell templates, right? And you can pay $30, $10, $5, or also free templates. Google knows that people might go and buy templates where they're gonna be reused. I mean, that's not a problem, but that it has a benefit for SEO purposes, in no means. That is pure scam. Make sense now, or?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
And what I also did was setting up a Google Plus page. You had they offered that for 399 New Zealand dollars, I think.
Oh.
And with additional $30 a month. So that's quite expensive, and they didn't do anything for you.
Well, they set up for you the Google Plus page, because that you need to have very big experience to be able to set up a Google Plus page.
Yeah, and they have to pay massive amounts to Google for that page.
Yeah, you need so many resources and all that stuff, you know. Yeah. Okay. Yellow Pages. Good news again. The weather looks cloudy. Oh God. Okay. You mean the weather forecast for the Penguin or something?
For Wimbledon, I think.
Actual weather forecast for Wimbledon, John.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys, we now have the finishing line in front of us. We're on the home straight. Edwin Yonk posted it was a post titled the Parasite Update, because I hate version numbers, and it is more than just payday loans. Although the hacked sites are removed from the first page, there seems to be a controversy, namely for Buy Viagra, the link spammer 1. I'm lost, guys. I'm having trouble covering this. Look, is this the article from Cognitive SEO? Is that the one? Yes, it is. I disagree with that. I don't think that Google has. I mean, to say has Google finally Google finally killed the spam from SERPs. I mean, what a silly thing to say. I mean, every day you can see evidence to the contrary. Anyway, that's my opinion. What is your opinion, guys?
I can prove that spam works if somebody needs it. Spam works, that is for sure, but when somebody says a Viagra site is still ranking #1, not all Viagra sites are spam, not all porn sites are spam, not all payday loan sites are spam. That we have to clarify that. I mean, there are companies which they are serious companies, they build an authority, they have very good link profiles and all that stuff. We cannot just throw them in a pot, because there is a kind of misconception that adult sites are spam. That's really not true. Matt Katz already mentioned that on a video recently on YouTube too, and he said, hey, porn sites doesn't mean that all of them are spam. So we have to be very, very cautious first when we're blaming that Google is ranking a website that sells Viagra #1. Okay, that we have to clarify that. Now, if it appears in search results where I'm typing in looking for, I don't know, real estate, and it shows up Viagra #1, that is where there is some bad practices, or like people call it black hat SEO stuff going on, right? That's possible. And I'm telling this that certainly Google is not so mature that they can eliminate every piece of spam on the web yet. And I believe they're going to we have some years ahead of us where we're going to see the web clean enough that we will not have anything to bitch about Google in this case. Put it this way. See you, Rob.
What I think cognitive SEO was saying was that the link spammers, they got a manual penalty and were dropped lower. And because of that, Google has to present something, some other 10 links, and they served hacked sites, or which cognitive SEO calls parasite sites. Mm-hmm. And the latest, or according to cognitive SEO, it looks like the latest payday loan update removed those hacked sites from at least the first page.
Yes. Okay. Well, cognitive SEO, Razvan, his name, from Romania, he built a tool, which is his business, but there are coming some claims sometimes from Razvan, which I'm not very impressed. We have to take into consideration the following. We at our company, we also do web development, right? So I do collective intelligence programming and stuff like that. So we know how Google how they build their stuff. So my question is, I mean, at least theoretically, how these things could work. My question is, how could Google test an algorithm if they don't leave some crap out there so they can see if they effectively can get things out of their site? So we shouldn't expect that Google is going to eliminate everything they know. They still keep some in their, let's say, in the back. They leave some stuff out there so they can tweak their algorithms, because they cannot just do it on a PC or in a few PCs and we just do some tests, some local servers or something, local hosts, right? So, and there are so many different kind of spamming techniques. There are millions. So you cannot just put them on 4 or 5 PCs and get some users and say, okay, let's do some testing, some quality raters. So, and that's why Google, they leave some spam out there in place where they use it for testing purposes, and then they also have the quality raters when people will send spam reports. So we cannot expect that, and every time Google will catch something, then the black hat, let's call them black hat. I don't believe in black hat or that term, but let's call it black hat. Everybody knows it. They're all the time finding new ways. I do personally private black hat, but private, only for private purposes, for learning purposes. I don't use it to be on the internet present or to sell anything. And I developed a technique that Google, I put it on a website where Google was hitting it big time because I brought up to PageRank 6. So the crawl rate was very high, rankings were very good, and I was doing cloaking, but server side, 3 years. I asked 7 popular SEOs, Andy Beard, if I remember well, Dan Thies, and Sebastian X, and we were 7 guys in the room. We had a little community of Dan Thies, and I asked them all to report this to Google, and they reported it, but nothing ever happened. For 3 years it was there and it was going on. So there are techniques that spammers all the time, or these let's say black hatters, they will find always new techniques. So Google, this is an ongoing project. It will never have an end.
That brings up a question, Whitney. Do you think Google will have assigned teams that try to spam or try to think up spammy ways themselves?
Well,
like with hackers?
Obviously, if I was Google, with my team, with my development team, if I was doing something like if I had a search engine or something, for sure we would do our own also spam, trying to create some new ways to spam the engine for quality testing.
It would be a nice job, wouldn't it?
Well, I hope they do have. If they don't, then I'm gonna be very disappointed.
Well, you can apply.
I can apply. Yeah, I got an offer 3 times from the Swiss Google, but I had to reject my work at SEO Workers, to drop SEO Workers work, and because it was, they said, a conflict of interest, and I don't know how much they would pay. There was no payment discussion. It was just an offer if I'm interested to work, and that was 4 years ago, I think, and yeah, but I wouldn't certainly earn so much I earn at SEO Workers anyway. And second, I like to play with Google. And if I would work for Google, I wouldn't be able to play with Google, So.
Yeah, well, if you're in the spamming development team, you would have to play with Google and get paid by Google.
Yeah, well, if it was for that stuff, yes, I would be interested. Yes, that would be interesting. But I was not offered for that. That was Webmaster Central, so it wasn't something where I was impressed.
So Moritz took that job.
Oh God, man! Oh God, that needs quality testing. That needs quality testing. Yeah. Well, I come from usability. I was always in SEO. 2006, I came into SEO. Since 2000 on the web, I was accessibility usability consultant and semantic web. And since 2006, I got into SEO. And I'm happy that the semantic web came into SEO too now. So I feel that I have a great advantage because I have 14 years experience, and it's pretty cool. Rich snippets, schema.org, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever. Sorry, Jim. I saw the bell.
Hey, don't be sorry. I'm just sitting here lapping it all up.
Okay.
Look, Tony has pointed out that Razvan has a lot of data. I was probably a little bit harsh on cognitive SEO before, so I apologise, Razvan.
I didn't want to be harsh. I said it's not only Razvan, there are other ones too but that was mentioned cognitive SEO. So that's why I made my comment. It was exclusively about cognitive SEO, not Razvan personally.
Mate, I was apologising for me. I was the one that said the wrong thing.
Oh, sorry, man.
You didn't say I was a little bit over the top. Anyway, we have a last question that somehow or other was missed from our run list, and Niraj Kumar has been asking a number of questions of us of late, and he reminded me that somehow we missed this one. I put the question in the chat. I'll read it out. And Niraj says, I have been actively commenting on Hindi blogs as a blogger, and now I've found that link, I won't try and pronounce the name that he said, but the link to this name on those posts has been redirected to my Google+. But I don't know why those comments are also showing as a backlink to my blog. Are my findings right? Will these links contribute to my author rank or website SEO or both? Now, this is really odd. I get this feeling of deja vu. Have we covered this already a few weeks ago?
Okay, I'm not sure if I understood what he's doing, but I think I would like to add something about the comments because this was been discussed before here, but it was not really answered. When I participate in going to blogs, for example, I would go to topics which are related to what I am doing. So I do SEO, I do web development, or something like that, and I would never use a keyword for a username. And I primarily use my name and my last name. And I add for a link, I will point not to my website, I point to my Google+. So you still can put a link to your website, but if you feel safe that that blog is not, you know, in any way like they're spamming or they're suffering from any penalties or that it's a bad neighborhood or something like that. So, and when I go out there, it's going to be an SEO community, a web development community. John Brizios, my name. The link, what I put in there is to my Google+. So I'm just telling Google, you know what, I add some value to that blog, right? And people who are using keyword, like people would type in maybe some spammers SEO for a name, that's going to harm you. First, because that is an obvious spam attempt or trying to get a link or something. Second, you have no benefit when it comes to the algorithm of the citations, co-citations algorithms. And third, as an author. So you don't have any benefit. So and what I'm doing is I'm just trying to gain a little bit of benefit if I'm going to go and add some value. Now, if I'm not going to go out there on New York Times and start adding comments or anywhere, no matter how high authority website is, and put my name there and then link to SEO workers, for example, to our company. You know what I mean? So, and anyway, in general, I mean, if people are still trying with comments, links to build links, they're far beyond the moon because they are far, far outdated. And they're, in my opinion, I call these guys suicidal.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Getting back to this, Edwin, do you remember this post? Have I covered it before? I'm surprised that I missed it. I mean, it's dated June 24, but I'm surprised that I missed it when we were scraping the questions for SEOquestions.com.
Sorry, Jim, I was not listening.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. No problem, mate. Niraj, look, I'm sorry to do this to you, but if we haven't given you an answer, please ask it again, and I'll try harder next week. Look, for those of you still watching us, thank you very, very much for taking an interest in what we do. Your interest makes our efforts worthwhile, and for that we thank you a lot. We'll be back at the same time next week, and we'll be answering the questions asked on the SEO Questions community. Let me put in a plug for Tony McCreath, who's still with us at the moment, for our Social Media Fridays hangout, which we're having a bit of fun on these days. We're up to our 10th episode, and it's in 14 hours' time. And we're discussing things that have been happening in social media over the past 7 days, and we add those items to the Social Media Fridays community and have a bit of fun. Anyway, we'll be back same time next week. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you then. Oops, no, I clicked the wrong button. That's only because I'm an idiot.